Jesus, I say that. Jesus, I say that.
I don't want reality. I don't want reality. I don't want reality. I don't want.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
I have to have my China. He looks good, and he looks hard. He looks good, and he looks hard.
Good to see you all showing up here. Just getting myself ready for the show. And technically we're not starting early tonight, just earlier than we did yesterday. Or today, which was a super secret early stream. So it was supposed to be a secret. I don't even know why we're talking about that right now.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Ice Age? How much taxes did people pay?
Jesus ain't say that.
China.
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 I have to have my China. I have to have my China. I got boxes full of Pepe.
I feel like I'm forgetting something. You ever get that feeling, chat, where you're just like, there's something I'm supposed to have done. I didn't do it.
Aren't I a good guy? Aren't I a good guy? This is from 12 Rules for Life.
Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
Okay. I think it's time for us to start.
In pink and beige and purple, we are tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land and seen the wonders of the world, but not yet one common man. I've known 10,000 women who are called Jane or Mary Jane, but I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe. And lovers think quite different thoughts while lying side by side. We love, we lose in China. We weep on England's moors. We laugh and lie in Guinea. We thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ. In major we're the same. I note the obvious differences in every sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. Women and men, we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. Thank you.
Okay, well, I hope that was mildly inspirational in some way to all of you, and let's get right to it. First video we're going to look at, where is my place? Oh my god, too many tabs. We're going to start it off easy and slow. Start it off easy and slow here. This is a PBS Terra video from a couple of days ago, which was recommended to me both by the YouTube algorithm and by somebody in the Discord. Now let's listen to this, entitled "This Winter Trend is Overpowering Global Warming." The title may be a bit misleading.
2024 made history for the warmest winter on record in the US. And globally, we saw the warmest January and February ever recorded. As Earth's average temperatures rise, data shows us that winter is the fastest warming season in most US regions. So why do we keep having deep freezes? And why do they keep happening in places like the Deep South?
I'm in Huntsville, Alabama, and we got snow.
And January was extremely warm. 15 low temperature records were broken in Kansas, which is—
Whoa. I have revealed things that shouldn't even be revealed yet. And I don't even know, how many likes do we even have on the stream right now, chat? Do we have 10? Do we even deserve— We have 10. We have 10? Okay. So we get Bacula, but no Cisco. Okay. Wow. Okay, back to important stuff.
Sort of ironic. And it also makes me wonder, how should we prepare for these complex impacts as our climate continues to change? In this episode, we're gonna dive into a new study that makes the future of winter in a warming world much clearer. And to understand winter in the US, we're gonna look at one of the most extreme winter storms in modern history. The 1993 blizzard that was dubbed the storm of the century.
Here we have ours from March of 1993. The 13th opens with the line, what most
didn't mean to do that.
Called the worst winter storm in Alabama history, struck Friday afternoon and lasted until midday Saturday.
There's no way people can get around, right? No. If they're at home now, they need to stay there. If they're not, they need to be trying to get there.
Really remarkable for any time of the year, even more so for the last week of winter. 13 inches in Birmingham makes it the biggest snowstorm of all time.
Yeah, no Cisco. I'm sorry, Aaron. You know, we got to get 20 likes to have Cisco. And since you've already seen it, I'll show you some of the other things that we can unlock here. We can unlock Morty. We can also unlock Doc Brown looking absolutely aghast at something. Morty looks more skeptical. Doc Brown looks aghast. But we need more likes. We just need more likes. Oh, and that's the only way. We can't just, can't be anarchy here. Just You know, I'd go web go.
As global temperatures rise and winters warm, we're actually seeing some interesting good news. Deaths from cold temperatures are decreasing. And this makes me want to understand the storm of the century more, because although a fact like this may lead one to believe that massive winter storms like the storm of the century may be a thing of the past, recent data says otherwise. To understand why that is, we're going to go back to 1993.
Flowers were blooming, the daffodils were out. It was the time of spring. We were up in the 70s on many days, and everybody was thinking about spring break and going to the beach.
So when meteorologist James Spann saw what looked like an intense winter storm coming late in the season, he wasn't really sure how to break the news.
Do you have the guts to go on television and forecast a catastrophic winter storm in mid-March? And quite frankly, I didn't have the guts to do that 5 days in advance. I didn't believe it.
Back in 1993, weather models weren't as good as they are today. But this particular system was very hard to dismiss. The ingredients included a deep area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico and record cold temperatures dropping down from Siberia.
It was forecasted 5 days ahead of time. Now, back in 1993, our forecasts weren't very good after 3 days, but this was such a big event that even the weather forecasting models were able to pick it up.
But I was able to see some of the model forecasts of the storm before it came ashore. The thing that amazed me about it was the model stayed pretty consistent on the position and the strength of the storm.
With high stakes of an extreme winter storm like this, James decided to go on air.
So about 3 days out, we went on television and said we could have a major winter storm this weekend. And I don't think anybody listened. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't listen either. This was the middle.
Chat anarchy. Okay, whatever.
March.
This was the middle of March, and yet we had a tremendous
What's that? Wait, Knoxville? Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it hit a bunch of areas in the South.
Outbreak of cold weather all the way down to Alabama.
The storm hit Alabama the night of Friday, March 12th, 1993.
Winter Storm 93 blows into Alabama.
And it was truly the storm of the century. It blanketed parts of the state with 20 inches of snow, and Birmingham saw 13 inches.
You had a true blizzard conditions here in a southern state, and that's pretty remarkable.
By Friday morning, every office from Georgia northward had called every single county, telling them about this storm and what would happen.
Oh, good. Snowstorm. This was not just an Alabama situation. This was one that affected the entire eastern part of the United States.
It snowed from Mobile all the way up to Maine. That's a storm.
This storm was so memorable that even our experts from previous episodes couldn't help but share their experiences.
I remember walking around Central Park. We had about 13 inches in total. It was beautiful. It looked great, but when you try to step on it, you didn't actually sink into the snow at all. It was literally concrete.
I was actually living in the Washington, D.C. area. Had about a foot of snow, but it also turned to rain too. Everything was almost like concrete when it ended.
I was very popular in my neighborhood because I still had my South Dakota snow shovel. So I was able to help a number of neighbors.
And our colleague Darren at PBS even has a shirt to immortalize the storm. But what were the consequences in a place like Alabama, which is so unaccustomed to snow?
Down in town, it was just a nightmare.
We had upwards of over 500,000 people with no power. We had to move into a hotel because we had no power for 1 week. Travel was impossible. The National Guard had to be called in. You had women that were going into labor that had to get to the hospital to deliver their babies, and they couldn't do that.
The two nurses met us halfway.
Some people needed medication to live. This was a life-death situation.
And remember, this was 1993. There were no cell phones, and most were without power. So radio became critical.
The local radio stations became a lifeline. They stopped playing music.
So yeah, apparently a lot of people in chat lived through this. I too lived through this. I was very young though. And must have been like 4 years old or something. And I was up north, like in New York, and I just remember walking around and the streets were just completely empty. It was super weird. I was so little at that point, like the snowdrifts were as tall as me.
stopped their regular format and they just took phone calls from people that had urgent needs. People were listening, and maybe somebody a few blocks away heard that call and they had that medication and they could walk it over there.
Snow's over, but the damage isn't.
There were over $5.5 billion in damages, equivalent to $11.6 billion today. Over 270 people died across 13 states. Nearly every interstate from Atlanta northeastward.
Wait, you were in 3rd grade in 93? I thought you were younger than me.
Closed, and almost every airport on the East Coast closed at some point due to the severity of the storm, representing the most weather-related flight cancellations in U.S. history up until that point. And from Florida to Maine, nearly 10 million people and businesses lost electricity. But again, this was 1993. Our climate has been warming steadily since then, so one would think that we're in the clear for big winter storms, right? Ironically, a new paper is challenging that assumption, and we'll get into that, but first, we have to understand how this super cold outbreak happened.
The jet stream took on this roller coaster shape or configuration. It went way up to the north over Alaska, and then came very quickly down on the other side of the Rockies, southward, all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's about as extreme extent of the jet stream as you'll really ever see.
The jet stream is a high altitude, fast moving air current that can carry very cold air from the Arctic. And shortly before the storm of 1993, the jet stream dipped south over the eastern US.
The jet stream is generally on the boundary of that cold air. And so the jet stream was very far south. And it is along the jet stream that these storms form. And so because that bulge of cold air was all the way this far south, the storm formed on its edge and then drifted to the northeast.
As the jet stream carried cold Arctic air into the south, it collided with warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico.
You had the coldest air of the northern hemisphere interacting with basically some of the warmest air in the northern hemisphere over a very short distance, which doesn't happen that often.
The convergence of these very different air masses was a key factor in forming the intense low pressure system.
You have.
Okay. I just thought that was interesting. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. Don't have to watch the whole thing. But, it also seemed like an easy way to get us into what is... We got a bunch of stuff to look over, although it's not the worst days we've had. Put it at medium, like a B tier. What's first? Oh, great. Right into this? Okay. Well, no. It's not even the worst thing. It's just annoying as fuck. This is from Click on Detroit. From 3 hours ago. New case of measles confirmed in Washtenaw County.
Second case of measles has been identified in Washtenaw County.
And tonight, health officials are warning the public about the possibility of exposure. Our Victor Williams joins us now with where people could have picked up that virus.
Oh yeah, DeMond and Kimberly, after a person was exposed to the virus and then went to several locations over the span of 5 days, here's where you need to know if you probably went there, you need to monitor any symptoms of this virus. It was starting right here at Michigan Medicine's emergency room on March the 10th and 11th. It happened at 10:40 a.m. to 4 p.m. on March the 10th and then 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on March the 11th. The second floor of U of M's Alice Lloyd Dormitory on March the...
So you remember yesterday? Perhaps you don't, because we were doing it. We did this secret stream. I think that's when we talked about this. But yesterday, or technically today, but yesterday for some, we were looking over the contagiousness of measles versus the flu, whereas the flu is 3-to-1 in terms of exposure rates to new cases, whereas measles is 18-to-1, and this sort of this timeline is disturbing because these people just went all over the place. I mean, you can see it here. I think we already passed part of it. Did we pass part of it? Maybe not. No.
11th, also from 6:45 a.m. to 9 a.m. After that, CVS Pharmacy on Jackson Road, also on the same day from 3:20 to 5:40 p.m. Next Care Urgent Care on Washtenaw Avenue in Ann Arbor on March the 12th from 10 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. CVS Pharmacy this time on Plymouth Road from the hours of 4:45 to 7 p.m. on March the 14th. And then lastly, Trinity Health Care Urgent Care on Jackson Road, March 15th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
For anyone that doesn't have prior immunity and was in these spaces, we'd be very concerned about them becoming ill.
And remember, this is very contagious, so if you guys were in this space at this point in time, it's best to, once again, monitor any symptoms that you have and then also check your vaccination status.
Aaron W. Can't say I foresaw the return of measles. Yeah, me either. It's a little weird. A bit thrown off, if I'm being honest. Little thrown off by that situation. That's fucking loud, by the way. Let's turn that down. Jesus Christ. Hold on, let me test the levels again.
China.
Why? I gotta fix the levels on this board because some of these sounds are way louder than the other ones. It's no good. Anyway, we got more to look at regarding this same situation, so buckle up. This is from this is also from 3 hours ago, but this is from Global News in Canada, saying that measles vaccine shortages are reported in Canada, meaning that young children will now possibly have to go without vaccines to something that is currently spreading around and has the potential for fatality.
Measles is a serious disease, and rising cases are a concern for the Public Health Agency of Canada's Dr. Dawn Shepherd.
There's not a recognition that somewhere between 1 and 3 out of every 1,000 children who develop measles will die.
But now, shortages of certain measles vaccines might make it more difficult for some Canadians to access shots. The website Drug Shortages Canada shows there are actual shortages of GSK's Priorix and Merck Canada's MMR2, and there's an anticipated shortage of Merck's Proquad. Remaining doses are reserved for public immunization programs. Dr. Gerald Evans says going forward, it will be a question of supply and demand.
It's the challenge for the companies that produce the vaccine to have enough of it available when this is a global issue, which is now, of course, beginning to impact us here in Canada.
In a statement, Merck Canada told Global News it is working to provide a consistent supply of MMR2 and Proquad vaccines in a timely manner. A spokesperson for GSK acknowledges that, from a global perspective, current demand exceeds available capacity, and we are prioritizing our existing commitments. Family physician Dr. Alan Grills says so far he has had enough vaccines for the people in his practice in Markham, Ontario.
My office is targeting kids that have fallen behind. If anyone comes in for another reason and episodically we find out that they need a catch-up, we'll give it to them at that point.
Merck estimates that it will be mid to late April when their product levels will return to normal. GSK says it's not able to pinpoint a date when its supply will stabilize.
Whoops, did not mean to do that. Okay, before we move on from this troubling situation...
this morning, the Biden
administration...
administration
Hey, I don't appreciate that. Where is it? Okay, now I've been trying to do a little bit of research into this, and I haven't had the time to do a ton, unfortunately. But I found this on the NIH.gov site. This is a study that was done, this is just associated data with, it's just compiled on their website. But essentially, the most severe complications of measles are blindness, pneumonia, encephalitis, and can range in fatality from between 0.1%, which is very low, thankfully, in industrial countries to 15% in developing countries. Now, I have not been able to get through this enough to figure out what, and honestly, I did go and try to what do you want to call it? Speed read it, but I'm still, I didn't find what I was looking for. I'm gonna have to do more research into it, but it sounds to me like that could potentially have something to do with vaccination rates, right? Because you would assume that it's harder to get people vaccinated in developing countries, right? And if they're not vaccinated, then their exposure to measles is probably going to result in worse symptoms. So I'm not sure if that 0.1% in industrial countries is going to count for places like the US, where there's been a serious uptick in parents not getting their kids vaccinated and other sorts of things like that. Was it 1 in 12? I don't know what that's in reference to. 1 in 12 what? Because I'm also lost with Moana up here. I'm not sure what that means. What's next? Oh, this is unfortunate. This is from 16 hours ago. Biden administration pumps brakes on new vehicle emission standards. This is from ABC 6 Philadelphia.
This morning, the Biden administration is pumping the brakes on new vehicle emission standards, giving automakers more time to ramp up their production of electric cars.
Today marks a historic win.
So if you heard that, they're pausing the requirements for manufacturers to give them more time. The fact is we got to stop doing this shit. Stop giving people, especially corporations, more time. The time is of the fucking essence, and just giving time out to people because, oh, it's hard for us to do this right now. That is not an excuse, especially from companies that manufacture in the United States. And yeah, it's the fact is we've been talking about it. Like, we need to get away from cars, but we can't continue to be making more and more cars that are fuel inefficient, you know? Yeah, exactly. We don't have time for that kind of garbage.
For public health, for the environment, and for the future of our country.
Changes appear aimed at addressing industry opposition.
Oh, I think he said 1 in 1,000, which would line up with 0.1%.
With public reluctance to embrace the technology. The new emission standards will be phased in more slowly than originally proposed, but they eventually get close to the same goal set out by the EPA, to have electric cars make up 56% of sales by the year 2032. Last year, they made up less than...
That's not even... That's 8 years from now. That's not even a hard goal. What the fuck is the complaint?
8%. In another change from the proposal, the EPA will now include a range of vehicles to reach its emission goals, including plug-in and hybrid vehicles.
We gave the automobile industry more flexibility to achieve those environmental goals.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It's a terrible plan.
The road to his re-election goes
Why does the
through
automobile industry need more flexibility? For fuck's sake.
The United Auto Workers, which has endorsed Biden, called the revised proposal a more feasible emissions rule that protects workers. The EPA emphasized there's absolutely no mandate to adopt electric vehicles.
Now I'll say this, okay? We want workers protected, sure, but we can't be trading these kinds of things like that anymore. It's got to be both, you know? Protect workers and also protect the earth, because without the earth there are no workers.
Former President Trump has campaigned against the new rules.
Crooked Joe has ordered a hit job on Michigan manufacturing with...
As president, Trump rolled back emission standards imposed by former President Obama. The White House claims the new emission standards will save Americans billions of dollars.
EV cars won't happen 100% in rural areas because of lack of infrastructure. I mean, there's plenty of places that aren't even that rural that don't have the infrastructure. It's a problem, right? And I guess that's why I keep saying that while we do need to switch over from like combustion engines to electric, we need to start trying to figure out how to solve that issue of rural America, because everybody in rural America owns a fucking car, right? And do we even want to take up all the space in cities with EV technology when we should be looking into improving our like transit systems and rails and other stuff like that? Investing in trolleys or more efficient and easy bike lanes and stuff like that. You know, I'm just thinking out loud here. But yeah, we should be doing all of it though at once. Okay, what next? Oh. Okay, so the TikTok situation has kind of escalated, if you will. This is from ABC Philadelphia as well, from 16 hours ago. Threatening voicemail sent to lawmaker as potential TikTok ban gains momentum in Senate.
The bill is passed. This morning, 1 week after the House approved a bill that could potentially ban TikTok in the U.S., senators from both sides of the aisle have a stark new warning about the app.
TikTok is a grave national security threat to Americans.
TikTok is a gun aimed at Americans' heads.
Senators yesterday got a classified briefing about how TikTok, owned by Chinese company ByteDance, uses the information it gathers against Americans. One concern, that the app could be used by China to influence the upcoming presidential election.
I will say very emphatically, the American people need and deserve to hear what we've just been told, because they would be deeply frightened.
ByteDance denies sharing Americans' data with the Chinese government. TikTok has urged its 170 million users in the U.S. to contact their lawmakers to oppose the bill passed by the House. Some of that lobbying now reportedly getting violent.
Okay, listen. If you ban TikTok, I will find you and shoot you.
That's a voicemail North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis says his office received.
Let's be real. She was also laughing, and it didn't seem very serious. I don't know why you're taking that as an actual threat, but okay. Maybe it's a threat. Maybe it's a threat. I don't know her personally. She might laugh while making serious threats.
TikTok, tell these kids to do that, doesn't actually help their case, it hurts their case.
The bill passed by the House would force ByteDance to sell the app or face a ban in the U.S. Still no word if the Senate will take up that bill, but there appears to be growing support for some sort of action later this spring.
Meta and Zitter still exist. They do. They do. I know. And you know, it's an interesting sort of blind spot that they have. It's very specific, quite clearly. And let's be real, Facebook and Twitter and other American social media platforms have relationships with the U.S. government, and they essentially just give over whatever the U.S. government wants from them. Usually, almost not 100%, not every time, but most of the time. What's next? Oh, sticking with tech news. This is from 2 hours ago. Global news. U.S. Actually, no, I have two of these. Do I? Oh, okay. Well, they're two different stories. Like 2 minutes worth of shit. This is about the Apple lawsuit in antitrust being brought by the U.S. government.
Apple has maintained monopoly power in the smartphone market not simply by staying ahead of the competition on the merits, but by violating federal antitrust law. Consumers should not have to pay higher prices because companies break the law. We allege that Apple has consolidated its monopoly power not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse. For consumers, that has meant fewer choices, higher prices and fees, lower quality smartphones, apps, and accessories, and less innovation from Apple and its competitors. For developers, that has meant being forced to play by rules that insulate Apple from competition.
American officials are suing the country's most popular smartphone manufacturer over claims it is violating antitrust laws. The Department of Justice and 15 states say Apple has created a monopoly with its iPhone by undermining third-party apps. The DOJ gave 5 examples of how the company prevented innovation by suppressing technologies that could be used in applications. That includes claims it limited access for financial institutions to create their own contactless payment system, pushing banks to use Apple Pay. It also noted that its encrypted iMessaging system would not function on third-party apps or with other kinds of smartphones. In a press conference, Attorney General Merrick Garland says Apple has a 65% share of the smartphone market, giving the company a monopoly.
Consumers should not have to pay higher prices because companies break the law. We allege that Apple has employed a strategy that relies on exclusionary, anti-competitive conduct that hurts both consumers and developers.
I gotta say, it's nice to see a little bit of consistency from the U.S. government for once. It feels weird, if I'm being honest.
Apple disagreed with the claims, adding the lawsuit threatens the principles that sets Apple apart in a fiercely competitive market, and that it would hinder its ability to further develop technology associated with the brand. Apple's shares were down more than 4% Thursday. This lawsuit comes as the company is also facing similar antitrust investigations in Europe, Japan, and Korea.
Okay, well. Yeah, apparently it's not just TikTok they're going after, although I would point out they're definitely going after Apple in a different way. But it is good to see them doing their jobs. What's next? What is next? Oh, okay. This is from Local 4 Detroit from 4 hours ago. The Michigan AG argues that Line 5 case should be heard in state court. And Line 5, if you're unaware, is a Canadian pipeline, oil pipeline that travels through Detroit and I think it's over Lake. Is it over the lake? It might be like right by. I don't know. It's like right through the Great Lakes, though.
Kyle Benning, Global News.
Well, the fate of Line 5 is uncertain right now.
The 70-year-old pipeline runs through the middle of the state and was the center of debate today inside a Cincinnati courtroom. At issue is whether the federal or state court should hear Michigan's argument to have the Canadian-owned pipeline shut down.
Local 4 investigator Karen Drew has done in-depth reporting on Line 5 and has today's developments.
Well, this has been a 5-year battle so far. Today, a federal judge heard arguments on both sides of the issue over where the Line 5 case should be heard. I spoke with State Attorney General Dana Nessel this morning as a crowd in favor of keeping the case here in Michigan was gathering outside the federal courthouse.
We have people today, let's hear you in the back, from Traverse City. We got people who came down today from Detroit. Attorney General Nessel standing up to Big Oil, standing up to Enbridge.
This is ours. We elected Dana Nessel to take this to court for us.
Attorney General Dana Nessel says the shutdown of Line 5 is a Michigan issue.
This is a violation of public trust. It's a public nuisance. It violates the Michigan Environmental Protection Act. Those are all state laws.
Concerns over Line 5's passage through the Straits of Mackinac led the state to issue a shutdown order. That was in 2019. Enbridge ignored the shutdown order, so AG Nessel filed suit in state court. But more than a year into the case, Enbridge had it moved to federal court, and Nessel appealed. Today, both sides made their arguments to a federal appeals court judge.
And in the event that we're not successful, I don't know what the point is of us having state courts and state laws in the first place if everything could just be litigated in federal court instead.
In a statement emailed this morning, an Enbridge spokesperson said it is confident that ultimately the Sixth Circuit Court will agree with the lower court's decision.
The thing is, in this one case, I tend to agree with her, but you know, the federal government does exist for a reason, and I feel like I hear that argument made too much by like Republicans to be like you know, ready to accept it on its face. Although if they're violating Michigan environmental laws, then that's a problem. fucking states and federal government, that it's always causing problems. I genuinely just don't even sometimes I don't even know what to do about it, because you look at it and it all depends on the state, right? You got one state that's putting in environmental laws which are supposed to protect the population, and then you have other states that are putting in laws to take people's rights to health care away, and it's like, oh god, it is ridiculous. Okay, let's watch the rest of this.
That this dispute, which has generated a U.S. foreign policy controversy, properly belongs in federal court. The company added it is investing in renewables, developing cleaner oil and gas solutions, and transporting and delivering these energy resources safely and sustainably.
All you need to do is go to click.
It's not sustainable, but okay. What's next? Okay, this one's weird. This is from ABC News from 17 hours ago. FBI investigating how a man boarded a flight, allegedly, without a ticket.
This morning, the FBI is investigating how a man was able to board a Delta flight in Utah, allegedly without a ticket. Authorities say 26-year-old Wycliffe Florizard took photos of boarding passes on passengers' phones at the airport in Salt Lake City, then used an image to gain access to the plane. Flight attendants, just before takeoff, realized he did not have a valid ticket.
They are on the taxiway, found his clothes.
The incident comes less than 3 months after another security breach at the same airport. In January, a man whose family says had mental health issues was able to run onto the tarmac and jumped into the engine of a plane, later dying.
The air blades were circulating when officers arrived on scene.
Videos show him trying to open a door with only a maintenance worker nearby. He eventually found an emergency exit, gaining access to the tarmac.
There wasn't anybody on surveillance video, or there
Jesus
wasn't anybody
Christ, this guy.
Responsibility for security
Oh
in
my
the
God.
hallways that saw him after he made several attempts to get out of doors that were protected by pad keys. That's disturbing.
In that case, the airport defended its security, saying some emergency doors need to stay unlocked in case of a fire. As for this latest breach, security
Meanwhile,
officials are not yet commenting. ABC News has
getting
learned
onto an
Florizard was
airplane
booked on 2 standby
is
flights
like a
that were
literal
full. So he tried getting on
disaster. It's been a while since I went on one, but I remember security being way too personal. Ay. Okay. I think I saw people talking about this report recently, but this is from Reuters. Gloomy youth pulls U.S. down in happiness ranking. Oh, you darn youths.
board a
I feel like life could be stressful at times, and like I feel like here in the U.S. it can be really hard. Different people have their own situations, but
I think because of how expensive it is to live now, and a lot of people depend on like their financial situation to make them happy, and it's the struggle when you don't have the financial stability to like live. So I think that's why, because it's hard out here.
Yeah.
But
especially living in New York, it's very expensive, high
Yeah.
taxes, you know, work almost every day out of the
Miami's
week.
expensive too. Everywhere's
And,
expensive
like,
now.
Well, I think inflation has, made a lot of people struggle more, so that can be true, but I don't know. A lot of people want to come here, so I don't think it's too unhappy. That's how I look at it.
Jesus
I don't think we're to
Christ,
blame so much as
Smile for the camera.
the system's kind of coming to a natural conclusion, and we're ending up with a lot less of the opportunities than the previous generations had, so we're gonna be a little less happier. I find happiness through work and
Yeah. I think that last guy was probably closest to the truth. So we're in a late stage capitalist environment right now where opportunity is not the same as it was for previous generations, leaving people to be a little bit more skeptical. I would also point out the fact that there's a great deal more available information out there in the world. And, you know, access to this sort of information, I think, makes people maybe a little bit more, what's the word? A little bit, no, not that. It's on brand, though, but like doomerific, right? Like, you see people dying everywhere all the time, shit going down, and yeah, I think that it makes you slightly less happy. Whereas back in the 1950s, if you didn't even have to try hard not to know what was happening across the world. In fact, it was much easier to not know. Okay, now we're going to get into politics here. That was kind of my brief segue between what we were... I guess it's all kind of political, but this is much more relating to elections, recent elections, and other stuff like that. This is from CNN 10 hours ago. When I saw this, I was a little bit like... well, I'll let you see. You judge for yourselves. CNN reporter confronts GOP nominee who called for Obama to be executed.
The woman you're about to hear from might never have found herself in the national spotlight. Michelle Morrow is her name. She wasn't expected to win her Republican primary race to be North Carolina's top public school official. Then last week, in an upset, she did win. And when she did, her extreme and controversial comments began getting attention. Last Friday, CNN's K-File reported that she has, for example, tweeted under her now dormant personal account about wanting to see former President Obama put in front of a firing squad on pay-per-view, saying, quote, "We could make some money back from televising his death." That's just one of a string of social media postings between 2019 and 2021 in which Ms. Morrow made suggestions about executing Obama and other prominent Democrats for treason, including Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Hillary Clinton, Senator Chuck Schumer, and then President-elect Biden. In the Biden tweet, here's how she answered the question, "Will you follow Joe Biden's advice and wear a mask for 100 days? Never," she replies. "We need to follow the Constitution's advice and kill all traitors." Ms. Morrow has also promoted QAnon, tweeting the QAnon slogan.
I wonder if she supports this statement across the board. You know, like with the Jan 6ers and so forth, and Donald Trump himself. It's just, I'm just thinking out loud.
Ms. Morrow has also promoted QAnon, tweeting the QAnon slogan, "Where we go one, we go all," multiple times. She also tweeted that the actor Jim Carrey was, quote, "likely searching for adrenochrome," which is a reference to a QAnon conspiracy theory which claims that celebrities harvest the blood and drink the blood of children to prolong their own lives. That's what they believe. In addition to all that, Ms. Morrow, who again is the candidate to be North Carolina's top public school official, has called public schools socialism centers and indoctrination centers. Now, as part of that K-File report, CNN reached out to Morrow and her campaign multiple times to get her side of the story, but received no response. So after publication of the K-File story, Morrow tweeted the following. According to @K-File and @CNN and @CNN Politics, Obama's drone attacks on hundreds of innocent Muslims in Yemen are not treasonous. The insanity of the media demonstrates the need to teach K-12 students real history and critical thinking skills, which of course doesn't directly address the multiple social media postings we just listed. So with that in mind, CNN's Shimon Prokupecz went to North Carolina to try and speak with her in person. It took him several days. They finally caught up to her outside a Wake County Republican Party event in Raleigh. Shimon joins us now. So what did she have to say?
Yeah, Anderson, so she went to this GOP convention. It's a local GOP convention in Wake County. That exchange.
Hi, Miss Morrow. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine.
All right. How did it go in there?
Hey, it went great.
Yeah?
It went great.
You feeling good?
Who are you guys with?
I'm Shimon Prokupecz. I'm with CNN.
Oh, have you been parked in my neighborhood by any chance?
We've been trying to talk to you, yes.
Okay. Well, you can go through my
I understand, but I have you now, so why
She's
don't
been
we
like,
talk now?
when she said that,
Why not?
am I the only person who like imagined her like peeking through her blinds, like it's CNN out there? Oh my god, like just like shaking.
Well, I want to ask you, do you still stand? I'm not talking to you, ma'am. Do you still stand by your comments about former President Barack Obama and that he should be executed, calling for the death of other presidents. Do you stand by that? Do you stand by those comments?
Have a good night.
Do you stand by what you've said about the public education system and that it needs to be destroyed?
No
Do
comment.
you stand by that?
No comment.
Do you understand the concern that people have
No
with this
comment.
nomination
Hey,
that you
I
now
have a
have?
question. Do you vote in North Carolina? Then keep your eyes on your own paper.
Well, let me ask you. I've
Keep your eyes on your own paper.
read papers over here.
You notice how this one lady in the white jacket has been like screening for her, like they're like playing basketball or something right now? Let's watch back again. Watch this. This lady is trying to play defense hard. Like literally, like physically trying to like block this dude from being able to just talk to her.
Calling for the death of other presidents. Do you stand by that?
Oh, pick. Trying to run the pick. Nope.
Do you
no.
stand by those comments?
No, he went around it.
Do you stand by what you've said about the public education system and that it needs to be destroyed?
No
Do
comment.
you stand by that?
No comment.
Do you understand the concern that people have
No
with this
comment.
nomination
Hey,
that you
I have
now
a
have?
question. Do you vote in North Carolina? Then keep your eyes on your own paper.
Well, let me ask you. I've read.
CNN is a national news organization. Why does it? Why would it ever matter if a reporter votes in the state that he's covering? It's ridiculous.
Papers are here too.
Keep your
and
eyes
the
on your own
concerns that
paper.
people have with your nomination and the things that you have said.
People in New York have concern over
People
my
all
nomination
across,
in North
people all
Carolina.
across the country.
Really? Why
Yes.
are they concerned about North Carolina? Do you know that education is a problem in this entire country? So maybe they need to focus on what's going on in your state of New York, which, by the way, is where I grew up. Maybe they need to focus on what's going on in California, where children are not getting the education that they need. Maybe they need to focus on what they're doing in Michigan. Because right now in North Carolina, I'm focused on helping the families of North Carolina for their children to get quality education, for them to be safe, and for us to be sure that our money is going into the classroom rather than bureaucracies. That's what I've been focusing on. That's what I've been fighting for the last 5 years, going to the General Assembly and dealing with those issues.
Right, but
so that is why I'm running.
I understand
So
that, but you
can-
have said such hurtful things too, in terms of the education
I have
system.
to tell you,
about transgender
everyone
students.
is so done with the gotcha moments.
This is not a gotcha.
It
These are your
is.
own
This is-
words, ma'am.
this is-
These are your own
this
words.
has nothing
You
to
have
do with
said that
education.
the
How do you
former
know
president.
those are my words?
Because you tweeted. Are those not your tweets? Do you deny saying that? You have an opportunity now.
I am
Do you
telling
deny
you.
saying that?
I am
Are
telling
you
you.
denying that you said that in those tweets?
I am telling you.
Have you
that I'm going to
have you
discuss
talked
education.
about the indoctrination of children by teachers?
I am telling you.
Have you talked about that? Have
Oh my God, this lady hasn't answered a single question yet.
you said that about students?
Have you seen any of me going to the school board for the last 5 years? Because you will have my answer.
So Shimon.
Okay. As you can see, everything's going perfectly fine in America. No big deal. Everything's good. Okay. Yeah, I just figured that would be interesting to see, since this woman is, I believe... Hold on, let me just double check this. I believe she's actually been elected at this point. Oh, no, she isn't. Is she? No, she's okay. No, she's been elected as the nominee for the GOP. So, in North Carolina, that's almost not 100%, but it's almost a guarantee of getting elected. Ah, God. Yep, everything is fine. NBD, let's not even worry about it, because she's only going to control what millions of students are given to learn from and or with. I'm sure that'll have no implications for the future. What's this next thing? Oh, okay. This is from 7 hours ago. New York Attorney General takes first step to prepare to seize Trump assets.
We're also following some other developments, this time out of New York, where the Attorney General's office is now making moves suggesting that the state at this point may start to try to seize some of the former president's assets if he fails to pay that nearly $500 million bond in his civil fraud case. So something that, as we know, right now, he cannot do. His lawyers has...
I am loving this right now. Like, CNN is just, they are having a field day over here discussing how Trump's going to pay for this because, you know, they all remember when Trump was running in 2016 talking about how many billions of dollars he had, and now this, and they are just all over this shit.
Argued he'll be unable to satisfy that.
And there's that deadline looming only about 4 days away. CNN's Kara Scannell is on this. Kara, what are you learning that Letitia James is weighing here? What moves is she making toward this?
So earlier this month, just about a week after the judge finalized the $454 million judgment that Trump personally faces, the New York Attorney General's office filed this judgment in Westchester County. What that means is that it sets the stage or makes it possible for her to potentially move forward to try to seize assets in Westchester. That's where he has a golf course. Also, the family compound known as Seven Springs, an estate crossing over 3 different jurisdictions. But it doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to move to seize those specific assets if it comes to that. You know, the judgment is also in New York, where Trump has a lot of properties, Trump Tower, his penthouse apartment there, the hotel.
Maybe they'll turn it into, what's it called? Like affordable housing or something like that, you know? Soon it will be New York Tower. Wait, why aren't you doing this? Go.
Corner of Central Park, as well as the office building 40 Wall Street. So it's essentially making it possible to set the groundwork that if she does want to move forward to put liens on these properties or move to initiate foreclosure proceedings, that is in place. They are on notice. Now, I also checked some of the county clerk's offices in some of the other places where Trump has properties in Florida, in Chicago. I didn't see any judgments there as of now. So right now it looks like the stage is getting set to move in New York. But of course, there is still time, although that clock is ticking, as Trump is waiting to see if the appeals court is going to allow him to post a smaller amount or allow him to not post any money until the appeal's over. The New York Attorney General's office has opposed that, and Trump still does not have the money to satisfy that $500 million judgment. Boris, Erica?
And in terms of that, right, I mean, are there any other options at this point? We know we've been talking about, of course, the 30 companies that refuse to loan or underwrite that money. And the deadline, as Boris pointed out, is looming, as you're talking about. Are there any other options left?
So Trump could potentially take out a mortgage on some of his properties. That's pretty complicated. A lot of the large financial institutions stopped doing business with Trump years ago. You know, also some properties, you know, there are questions about what their value is. That was the issue in this whole case, that the judge found that Trump inflated the value. So companies generally would want to do their own homework before deciding whether to issue a mortgage on a property. And also mortgage interest rates are high right now. That makes the cost of doing that pretty expensive. And we've seen Trump publicly state that, you know, this is an expensive process for him. That is one option. There could be a donor that comes in last minute and offers to give Trump cash for this. Remains to be seen if anyone credible is going to do that. And then, you know, he could potentially have a fire sale of one of his properties on his own. I mean, the clock there, again, is ticking. It seems that is unlikely. Surely Trumps are working behind the scenes as they're facing this deadline. But, you know, if not, we'll see what happens on Monday. Erica, Boris?
Kara Scannell, thank you so much. Let's bring Jennifer Rogers back in. So, Jennifer,
I just find this hilarious. I feel like we should start looking into how much his properties are worth. Like, I just started doing a little bit of digging, and it does appear that he might even, depending on what would happen, right? Because if he were to try and just sell it outright on the market, who's to say who would buy it right now? Commercial real estate is down big time. Right, and I don't know exactly what all like what kind of renters are in Trump Tower, but like buildings like that, there's not that many buyers. So, you know, like I'm looking at, he might not even be able to get half of what he needs from it, depending on how desperate he is, because people know he's desperate for the money. It's named Trump Tower. It's not like anybody's going to mistake it for anything else. So, ugh, goodness. I feel I really want to do a deep dive on it, but let's just listen to this for a little bit longer.
March 25th comes, this bond isn't paid. How quickly will we find out if Donald Trump is going to have properties seized?
Well, it'll be still a bit of time, Boris. There's a whole legal process around seizing assets. First step, apparently, Tish James and her team has already started, which is to file the judgments in the relevant jurisdictions, but that's only the first step. And it's even more complicated when it comes to real property because, you know, it's not like Monday you're just going to see a team of sheriffs go up and put a padlock on a building or anything like that. There's paperwork steps. Trump may have the ability to challenge some of those steps before things are actually seized. And of course, seizure and then sale and then taking the assets. So it will be a while before anything really happens. But I think that we will hear something from the court between now and then because
I would genuinely like to see it, me personally. Just because I think it'd be funny as fuck. Trump locked out of Trump Tower. Ooh, boo-hoo. TikTok diaper Don. Exactly. What's next? Oh, this one's funny. I'm not going to watch this whole thing either, but this is Trump's lawyer who was asked if he'll get a portion of his bond from either Russia or Saudi Arabia.
In our Law and Justice lead, that rally is not solving Donald Trump's money problems. The former president has just 4 days left to post a massive bond and stop his New York assets from being seized by the New York government. And at the same time, his campaign funds are also lacking. CNN's Kristen Holmes examines now how Trump is trying to get out of this mess.
Mr. President! With just 4 days to pay the at least $464 million bond, former President Donald Trump's panic mode does not appear to be easing up. Posting to Truth Social today that the amount ordered by the judge was too high for bonding companies, adding that, quote, putting up money before an appeal is very expensive. With New York Attorney General Letitia James already taking the first steps to seize Trump's assets if he's unable to post bond, Trump has been publicly defiant.
We're fighting it out with them. We have a lot of cash and we have a great company, but they want to take it away, or at least take the cash element away. Billions of dollars in value, billions of dollars in properties, but they'd like to take the cash away so I can't use it on the campaign.
As Trump seeks solutions, his campaign also facing a cash crunch, struggling to chip away at President Joe Biden's significant financial edge. Trump's campaign.
I love how he acts in this moment like he's still been funding his own campaign. That stopped a long, long time ago.
And Joint Fundraising Committee raised a combined $20.3 million in February, ending the month with $41.9 million in the bank. While an increase from January, the numbers lag behind Biden's, whose political operation raised $53 million last month and ended February with $155 million cash on hand.
Wow.
Meanwhile, with Trump's legal...
That is a ridiculous amount of money to spend on a fucking election. It is crazy. That shit is fucking crazy to me.
Still looming over him, his leadership pack spending more on legal expenses than it took in last month. Biden not only outpacing Trump at the bank, but also on the campaign trail, making an appeal to key voting blocs.
I need you. I need you badly. I need the help. Kamala and I desperately need your help.
While former President Trump has largely stayed...
$150 million. How much more help do you need? What the fuck? Oh my god. I hate this election cycle. This is the worst election cycle ever.
Behind closed doors since clinching the Republican nomination, swapping rallies for donor meetings and the golf course. Trump has only visited one battleground state since Super Tuesday.
Hello, Georgia. I'm thrilled to be back.
And held a campaign event for his hand-picked Senate candidate in Ohio before the primary in that state. In the same stretch of time, Biden has visited every top battleground state.
Hold on. Let me move this forward to where they have this woman on. Didn't they? Did we miss it? I feel like... Am I losing my mind? Where did they talk to this girl? Oh, right. No, they play a clip. Where is that? Fuck. Might be right here. Fuck, I'm just going to play.
You're going to be building the future here in Arizona, and Arizona is building the future.
And Jake, I am told by sources that Trump is going to be back on the campaign trail in the next 2 weeks, but that is not the focus for Donald Trump right now. He is still fixated on how he is going to post that bond. One option that we are told is off the table. Trump opposing anything.
But he's looking at that campaign funds, like sweating. Like, can we use that? Is that legal?
Learning a path to filing for bankruptcy. Jake?
All right, Kristen Holmes, thanks so much. Our panel joins me now. I'm sure declaring bankruptcy would be a political liability. It might actually be smart financially. But let's just ask the big question: where are all these?
Okay, these guys are pissing me off right now. This clip that they used as the title of this fucking video, which I've already seen, which I should have written down once again. That's on me. It's like 5 seconds long, and they're like hiding it in this video from me. Fuck it. Or I wasn't paying attention. It's one of the two. It's one of the two. But essentially, Trump's lawyer is in fact asked if he'll be getting money from Russia or Saudi Arabia. And she did not answer the question, really. In fact, I would say it was a complete non-answer. I'm pretty sure it's... I don't know what the... Actually, I don't know what the penalty for it is. The penalty is probably... Yeah, what is the... No, I think you get jailed for it. Because I think it's like fraud. I think it's fraud. If it's not, it should be. I think campaign fraud is what it's called. I'd have to look it up. Okay, this next one's just for fun, to get us kind of moving forward in things. This is from ABC Philadelphia. Astronaut applications. What it takes to go to outer space.
I'm not going to ask you again.
1 second.
Until April 2nd, you and I have the chance to apply with NASA to be an astronaut.
Do you have any special skills?
Oh, yes.
Obviously, it's not your average job application.
We're looking at all different pieces of a person when they come in and not just, hey, what have you achieved?
Looking at the posting on usajobs.gov, you can see the top job duty is to, quote, conduct operations in space. Also, quote-unquote, extensive travel is required, and you are not allowed to do this job remotely. Not even
Oh, man, they got jokes over there. Extensive travel required, and not a remote job. Hilarious. Wow. I would also like to say that as Galactic Streamlord, at some point I will also be taking applications to come into space with me. Wait for that announcement.
Houston, we have a Wi-Fi problem. ABC News spoke with members of NASA's newest graduating class who made it out of 12,000 applicants. Some, of course, were pilots in the military, but many come from STEM backgrounds and beyond.
It was quite the journey.
Andre Douglas here, for example, is an engineer who worked with robotics.
You know, there's many different athletes in the astronaut office.
And Chris Birch here was an Olympic cyclist who also has a PhD in biomedical engineering. And Dr. Anil Menon.
Olympic cyclist and biomedical engineering. Wow. Okay. The standards will be slightly lower for the Galactic Space Station, if I'm being honest.
An ER doctor who applied 5 times to be an astronaut and has spent much of the last 2 years learning how to be a doctor in space.
It's all about doing medicine without the same CT scans or MRIs or operating rooms that you have on Earth, and so you got to figure out how to do more with less.
And as more billionaires and sci-fi actors get to visit the final frontier, pretty soon NASA plans to send its first people to the moon in more than 50 years. And just prepare yourself, it sounds a little different this time.
Instead of going to the equator of the moon.
It's a pretty sweet image. I like that. Okay, on to more serious plans and things. This is from 4 hours ago. Carbon tax debate. Liberals slam conservatives' reckless climate plan. This is from Global News in Canada.
The average Ontario family pays $1,674 every year in Liberal carbon taxes. They get back $1,047. I know that it's very difficult for them to understand, but $1,674 is bigger than $1,047. And the tax goes up by 23% on April 1st. So if he won't spike the hike or axe the tax, then why won't he let the people decide and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives need to stop spreading falsehoods. The PBO has been very clear that 8 out of 10 Canadian families get more money back. It is true now. It will be true in 2030. The only thing that these folks are going to do by taking away the rebate is to make those on modest incomes poorer. Shame on you for that. While his climate plan is essentially to let the planet burn, the Conservatives essentially...
Sorry, chat, I gotta go back. I was trying to read your chats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives need to stop spreading falsehoods. The PBO has been very clear that 8 out of 10 Canadian families get more money back. It is true now. It will be true in 2030. The only thing that these folks are going to do by taking away the rebate is to make those on modest incomes poorer. Shame on you for that. While
I get the sense this is one of those mean median type situations. I don't know if you know the difference between those things, but oftentimes people use the average, which means adding everything up and dividing it amongst the entire population, rather than going on a case-by-case basis and figuring out exactly how many people it's actually affecting and to what degree. And it's often used to obfuscate the fact that it's the richest and the most powerful that are using the most carbon, and therefore the numbers are skewed. Anyway, keep listening to this.
Climate plan is essentially to let the planet burn. The Conservatives essentially have a policy that is both reckless on the environment and reckless on affordability.
Wow. Because the minister repeats something over and over again, it doesn't make it true. That liberal math might make sense in fantasy land, but the math the Canadians are doing is painfully real as they try to put food on their table. And those Liberals have the audacity to believe that Canadians want to pay more in taxes, not less. The Conservatives are giving this government the chance to test that audacity and call a carbon tax election. If the Liberal government believes that everyone loves the carbon tax, then why won't they agree to go to the polls? What are they scared of?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I would say the Conservatives need to stop spouting falsehoods. Right. The average net benefit to Canadians in Ontario is $255 a year. In Manitoba, $365 a year. In Alberta, $723 a year. In Saskatchewan, $349 a year. What these folks are going to do is make poor people poorer, and they are going to essentially sacrifice the future of our children going forward. Shame on you.
Okay. Canada. Being very Canadian today. Let's see. I think I made a point about this already, so I'm just going to push forward. This. Now I'm going to start moving slightly to global things, but we're going to do it first from a media and public relations perspective. This is the Middle East Eye. This is a clip from a questioning in England, in Britain. This is BBC directors being questioned over the BBC's impartiality during the covering of the ICJ case.
The ICJ hearing several weeks ago was a hugely significant news item. The channel that has replaced the news channel, there was hardly any of the South African submission on day one, and yet hours and hours of the Israeli submission on day 2. Have you looked into the disaster that was in terms of impartiality, because it wasn't impartial?
We've had lots of, as you know, I get feedback of significant feedback from people on either side, if we can simplify even as either side on this, in this.
I don't think there's two sides to this. I think there's an issue of impartiality.
I mean,
and
David May.
Oh man! And the thing is, we've been talking about this, the coverage and how biased it was, coming from BBC, coming from CNN, coming from basically all the American major news outlets, as well as CBC from Canada, among others. And it's actually good to see people trying to hold them to account.
Look at it, but we did cover in detail that ruling.
I watched it, all of it.
And yeah, but I'm just talking on one outlet in terms of we can debate the ins and outs of that. But overall, I think we've been pretty robust in covering the ICJ proceedings.
Do you think it was fair to have a tiny bit of the South African submission and then switch to the post office, which again is a very, very important story?
I think
I'm not decrying that.
Overall,
but then have hours and hours the next day of the other side's submission. You think that was fair and impartial?
Well, I think on the rolling news channel, you've got, in terms of selections, in terms of what's going.
Do you think that was fair and
I
impartial?
think
balanced?
I think overall, when you look at our coverage on the rulings, we've been in a reasonable position.
David, do you think it?
That was the worst answer ever. And I think we can say very easily that it wasn't fair and balanced. It was appalling just how few stories that they were doing about you know, what Palestinians have been experiencing up until very recently, as well as their coverage of the ICJ. I think it's just more obvious, maybe. I'm not sure why they chose specifically the ICJ, because you could have sorry, excuse me, but you probably could have picked a number of things in regards to this particular conflict.
Fair and impartial. The coverage of those 2 days of hearings I'm talking about, not the rest of the
I think you've put your finger on something very important about what happened, because it only happened on our UK output. The international output covered the two sides of that conflict and of the presentations that were made to the ICJ. They covered them equally in our international coverage. In our UK coverage, because the hearing on the post office was being held at the same time, they made the editorial decision to go.
It means outside of the example you just made, yeah. Yep, that's exactly what it means.
Post office coverage rather than the other coverage, which, as you can tell, was a very difficult decision to make. When news looked at it in retrospect, they did think that perhaps they'd made a mistake in not making the two live coverage events similar or the same. But they did make all the other coverage was very similar and the same, and was very, very comprehensive. So it was just about the live coverage on the news channel on those 2 days, which wasn't absolutely equivalent. And in this particular conflict, if you don't have absolute equivalence, as you know, it leads to people suspecting.
Yeah, it does lead to people suspecting, and his fake conciliatory attitude here is very annoying to me.
That you're doing something deliberately to be biased. That isn't the case. It was genuinely a difficult editorial decision about which hearing they went with.
You think that was a mistake to do the coverage?
News have said that if they thought about it again, they might have done it differently.
Thank you.
At least he's like making that that assessment. This other guy's like, no, we didn't make any mistakes. It was fair and balanced. Without saying that, because, you know, wouldn't want to actually be on the record saying lies. But, anyone shit themselves recently? Wow. What is this about? What are we talking? What the fuck are we talking about? Oh god. I don't know if you saw this, but somehow I missed this, which is shocking to me. But this is from 3 weeks ago. Once again, I have no idea how I missed this, but this is ridiculous, okay? It's very quick.
Israel, like other countries in the region, is a sovereign country that makes its own decisions. The United States does not dictate to Israel what it must do, just as we don't dictate to any country what it must do. We present what we believe are the. We present what we believe are the. Good one, Matt. We present. No, I mean, but come on, yeah, it's we.
You want to hear that again? But I found it funny that he paused in here.
What it must do. We present what we believe its own decisions. The United States does not dictate to Israel what it must do, just as we don't dictate to any country what
any country. Like, listen to that. Listen to the timing of that. He knows while he's saying it that he's fucking wrong.
Must do, just as we don't dictate to any country what it must do. We present what we believe are the. We present
unless
what we
you
believe.
Invade them.
Just as we don't dictate to any country what it must do. We present what we believe are the. We present what we believe are the. Good one, Matt. We present. No, I mean, but come on, yeah. It's.
And the thing is, you can see that he was not ready for that at all. I personally wasn't ready for anybody to pull that one, and I was like, dude, like I laugh at it, and then I'm like, wait, what am I laughing at? That shit is fucking like gross, but it's so on point. That, like, it even got him off guard, and he got him laughing, and he didn't even know what else to do but to give him one of these. Because it was so on point. It's not even countries we're even currently invading or anything like that. You know, it's kind of across the board for a bunch of different reasons. Fucking smarmy bastard.
We present stand-up hour in the briefing room.
The briefing room and stand-up hour.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
Oh, damn it, Amy. Amy, why are you jumping the gun on me? Okay. Now to do an actual departure from Western stuff, if you will. We're gonna do a full stop segue here with Democracy Now! These are the top U.S. and world headlines from today.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's assault on Al-Shifa, the largest hospital in Gaza, has entered a fourth day. Al Jazeera is reporting Israel's blown up the entire specialist surgery center at the hospital. Israel has now ordered a full evacuation of the medical complex where thousands of Palestinians had sought refuge and medical care. This comes as Israel continues to attack areas across the Gaza Strip, including the Al-Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza.
We saw a frightening sight, body parts. We found the whole area destroyed. A whole area was hit with a belt of fire. They have not done anything. They don't know the resistance or anything. A mother and her children. Her husband is wounded inside. Her husband is an employee of the Palestinian Authority. He distributes gas. He has nothing to do with the resistance or anything. The whole area was hit with a belt of fire. And the children, as you can see, they have been dismembered. We're here collecting their limbs from under the rubble. There are children still there. We will bury them and then go search for others.
As the death toll in Gaza approaches 32,000, aid groups continue to warn of catastrophic hunger across the Gaza Strip. Mohammed Slim is a Palestinian mother in Gaza City who said her son was killed while trying to get aid.
I want what I'm saying to reach the whole world, so they can see what Israel is doing to the poor Palestinian people. We have been 6 months. 6 months. They are children. What have they done to deserve...
Oh, gal is me? I think I've missed a bunch of comments that were meant for me then. I'm glad I made you giggle, though.
We are tired. We no longer have energy. The children in the south and the north are dying of hunger. What has a baby done to die of hunger?
On the diplomatic front, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's in Egypt today after a stop in Saudi Arabia. At the United Nations, the U.S. has submitted a draft resolution to the UN Security Council for an immediate temporary ceasefire in Gaza tied to the release of hostages. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Republican senators in a closed video conference that Israel would continue its assault on Gaza. Netanyahu reportedly blasted Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's called for new elections in Israel and turned down Netanyahu's request to address...
Well, I'm going to skip forward because we have a bunch of Gaza stuff to deal with later. At some point, she stops talking about Gaza. I think right around here? No, here. Here, yeah. We do have plenty of Gaza things to look at.
We are against this draconian law, which is completely contrary to human rights. If they intend to do deportations, which is not up to them, we won't accept deportations from the Texas government, and we will not stand idly by.
The law is currently blocked after the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals moved to halt the measure Tuesday, just hours after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the law could go into effect. Immigrant justice advocates warn SB 4 would have devastating effects on immigrant communities throughout the state of Texas. This is Fernando Garcia, director of the Border Network for Human Rights.
If allowed to proceed, it would have a terrible impact on communities. We are talking about the fact that not only migrants crossing the border would be impacted by the state immigration policy of Governor Abbott, but in general, Texans, migrants in Houston, in Dallas, and Fort Worth will be subject to a policy of persecution by local and state police, where they will be asking them for immigration papers, detaining them, and also deporting them to Mexico.
In Georgia, prison officials executed William James Pye in the state's first execution in over 4 years. 59-year-old Willie Pye was put to death with an injection of pentobarbital after the U.S. Supreme Court denied a clemency appeal despite his lawyers arguing he was, quote, intellectually disabled, unquote, and that the state of Georgia was not ready to resume executions after halting the practice during the pandemic. Pye's supporters and anti-death penalty advocates gathered for a vigil Wednesday ahead of his execution. Kathy Herman Christian is executive director of Georgians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty.
On the death certificate, it will say homicide. The state is committing homicide. And that's what's on Willie Pye's death certificate. The drug itself for this particular lethal injection, to my knowledge, is a single-dose drug. And my understanding is that what it will do, it will boil, Willie Pye will experience boiling in his own blood.
In Mississippi, 2 more former sheriff's deputies were sentenced Wednesday for torturing and sexually abusing 2 black men in January 2023. Christian Dedman was sentenced to 40 years in prison and Daniel Updike to 17.5 years. The men were part of a group of officers that call themselves the Goon Squad. A total of 6 officers have admitted to beating, handcuffing, waterboarding, and tasering Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker inside a home in a majority white county outside Jackson, Mississippi. 2 other members of the Goon Squad were sentenced on Tuesday. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the U.S. Justice Department and lawyers for Julian Assange have had preliminary discussions about a possible plea deal that could lead to the imprisoned WikiLeaks founder being released from prison. However, Assange's legal team says they have been given no indication the Justice Department intends to resolve the case. Julian Assange has been held in London.
Oh, God. That whole situation with the cops, people are absolutely right. I've watched it multiple times now, so I feel like I almost just kind of let it go. But you're all 100% right. It's atrocious. How it is that people like that get to be police officers is ridiculous and nonsense.
Belmarsh prison since 2019, awaiting possible extradition to the United States, where he faces up to 175 years in prison for publishing classified documents exposing U.S. war crimes. In a surprise move, Ireland's leader, Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, announced Wednesday he is resigning, stating simply, quote, the time has come to pass on the baton.
No, inevitably there'll be speculation as to the quote-unquote real reason for my decision. These are the real reasons. That's it. I have nothing else lined up. I have nothing in mind. I have no definite personal or political plans. But I'm really looking forward to having the time to think about them.
At 45, Varadkar is Ireland's youngest ever Prime Minister, or Taoiseach. He's also Ireland's first openly gay leader and first Indian and mixed race leader. On Sunday, he called for a Gaza ceasefire as he joined President Biden at the White House for a St. Patrick's Day celebration. In Hong Kong, lawmakers unanimously passed a new national security law that further cracks down on dissent and free speech. Article 23 expands the definition of certain offenses and targets treason, insurrection, sabotage, external interference, theft of state secrets, and espionage. It also allows for closed-door trials and imposes harsher penalties, including life imprisonment in some cases. The bill's passage marks a major defeat for pro-democracy activists and critics of Beijing's tightening grip on Hong Kong.
Yeah.
In related news, a Hong Kong court Saturday sentenced 12 people to prison terms of 6 to 7 years after they were convicted of rioting Beijing when they stormed the city's legislature during the 2019 pro-democracy uprising. Hundreds of protesters breached and vandalized the government building on July 1st, 2019, the 22nd anniversary of Britain's handover of Hong Kong to China. Indonesia's election committee...
Okay. Wait, did we watch that? No, fuck it. Fuck it. We got too much other stuff to look at. I'll deal with that later. I'm more prepared to deal with that one. But yeah, the whole Hong Kong situation is getting out of control, and I know that their government has part of it is just appointed by China's government, but it's very complicated because in the I think like even the late 90s or it might have been 2000 when it was handed back over from the British to the Chinese, but there was like a period of time, I think it was like 15 or 20 years, some long period of time where it was not, it had its own government and it technically wasn't being interfered with by China or England, and then things changed. And I honestly don't know the details of that agreement enough to be able to go into more depth on it, but that's my understanding of partly why the situation in Hong Kong is as it is. Flipping tables over here, people? Is that a double table flip? Oh my god, that's a double table flip. That's intense. Okay, this next video is entitled Colombia Armed Groups. Government suspends talks with FARC faction.
A vicious attack on unarmed civilians.
God damn, that is loud as fuck.
Members of a rebel dissident group opened fire on this indigenous community in the western Cauca region last Sunday when locals resisted the armed group's attempt to forcibly recruit a young student. At least 3 people were wounded. One renowned indigenous authority was killed, leaving her community long ravaged by armed conflict once again in disarray.
There's a lot of uncertainty, anxiety and fear. We're growing desperate. There are 12,000 people in the indigenous reservation and people are stuck in their houses. Kids are not going to school. Everything is stalled because we don't know what will happen next. So the question is now for the government, what will they do? We're trying to attend to both the security and social emergency.
President Gustavo Petro, who has bet on negotiating peace agreements with remaining armed groups in the country, took to social media to announce that the attack was a violation of an ongoing ceasefire and ordered a resumption of military operations against them. The Estado Mayor Central, or EMC, is the largest dissident faction of former FARC rebels who refused to join a 2016 peace deal. Experts say that since the accord was signed, Colombian authorities have failed to take control of the country's most volatile region.
Okay. Now, I would just point out that Colombia was ruled for a great period of time. I don't know if great's the right word, but for a long period of time, multiple centuries, by colonial forces. I believe it was the Spanish. And ever since then, ever since gaining independence, I think in like the 1800s, it's still been influenced by Western powers, most specifically the United States in relation to the Panama Canal. Okay. Moving on to Russia. Reuters. Russia launches missile attack on Kyiv. Yeah, this was from a day ago, 18 hours ago. Russia launches a missile attack on Kyiv, according to city officials. You can see people here are hiding out in the subway. And according to Ukrainian forces, they shot down all 31 missiles that came to Kyiv, but the debris injured several and damaged buildings. Okay. And thankfully for Ukraine, they have an actual military and the ability to shoot down missiles, protect civilians. Do we watch this one too? You know what, let's watch this one as well. Just another quick video on the same thing, but from different footage. I was in the room when the first explosion happened. The balcony doors. The balcony doors opened, so I went to close them, and at that moment the next explosion occurred, and the balcony doors fell on me and pinned me down. They are running out of servicemen. You got a good point there, so they've been, I think I heard they're instituting a mandatory what do you call it? Like mandatory service. There's another word for this. Conscription? Okay. Just gonna go straight into this other one. Russia aborted the launch of 3 astronauts to the International Space Station. Now, they're claiming one thing. Nobody's actually saying for sure why. I mean, they've made a claim that it was related to an electrical issue, but I don't know. I have questions about it. Russia has aborted the launch of 3 astronauts to the International Space Station moments before they were scheduled to lift off. The Russian Soyuz rocket was aborted by an automatic safety system about 20 seconds before the scheduled liftoff.
At about the T-minus 20-second mark.
In the final stage of pre-launch preparation, an emergency situation occurred, and the entire procedure was whoa. Sorry, I just got distracted. What did he say? The entire operation was interrupted. Thank you. The reason has been identified, and we just found out at a meeting of the State Commission that the reason was a voltage drop at the chemical power source. Okay. Well, it could very well be that, but you know, considering everything. Did I know that Congress members bought a bunch of stock in the company that makes their prosthetic limbs right before the U.S. sent military aid? That can't be possible. That's disgusting. It better not be true. First off, that would be a crime. I'm pretty sure. Okay. It's the last one of the Ukraine-Russia war. This is just footage of Ukrainians digging trenches like old school, like World War I. Although they got better equipment now. Ukrainians are building defensive fortifications where intense battles are underway near the shared border with Russia. Construction workers are digging deep trenches fortified with wooden planks and cement. Ihor Bohotrenko helped build a military pillbox. That name was tough. I feel good that I could help these guys as far as I can. I can't help them by being drafted. Okay. Ukrainian officials have warned that their resources are stretched thin and they need considerably more Western weapons if they are to keep fighting. That checks. That tracks. Hey, bad lefty. Disco Wolf was looking for you. I think a whole chat was looking for you at one point. By the way, how many likes do we have? 17? Is that right? Do we have 17 likes? We're getting very close to Cisco. I saw Soul Life here doing the thong song, and I thought maybe we'd hit 20, but I'm seeing 17. I could be wrong. That's 18. Okay. We're very, very close. We just need 2 more likes, and then we get Captain Benjamin Sisko on our side. Wait. Gotten ahead of myself. Okay. Now, this next one is moving in the direction of Asia. I guess Russia's in Asia too. This is from the AP. Both of these are just different footage of dozens of Rohingya refugees being rescued after being stuck on a capsized raft.
Tenang, santai, santai. Hey.
Now, if you're unfamiliar, the Rohingya people do not have an actual country. They're an ethnic minority everywhere that they live, and have been essentially ethnically cleansed, genocided by Myanmar. I'm trying to remember exactly. They're Muslims, and so I believe it was Buddhists. I can't remember though. I don't want to be wrong about that. But there have been 2 different genocides, claimed genocides against the Rohingya people in Myanmar. I think the first one was in like the early 2000s, and the latest one has been going on for, I want to say, like 10 years. It's been going on for a while. I don't have any of the figures in front of me. I should be more organized today, but I am not, sadly. I could look it up, I suppose. Where are you? Yeah, apparently it's been going on for a very long time, but I guess it's been for like the last 7
far worse intentions.
years or so, you would say. Hey, settle down. What are you doing? Why am I on this screen? Yeah. It's like 2017. 2016. It's complicated though, because there's been apparently a bunch of different conflicts, insurgencies relating to this since way further back than I thought. Since the 1940s, it would appear. Okay. But suffice to say, the Rohingyas are an ethnic minority, Muslim ethnic minority without a country. They live in different countries, mostly in the Southeast Asia region. although there are some in the West. Hey, look at that. Bad Lefty can chat for real. That's more than 10 characters. That's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Alright, let's watch this. This was reposted a couple of days ago by Vice. This is their documentary on the Syrian war as it relates to cyber cyber warfare, I guess. Definitely not gonna watch the whole thing though. It's super long. We have 19 likes. If we get one more like, be able to get Captain Benjamin Sisko in here. But yeah, I'm just gonna point this out just for context as we're watching this, that the United States definitely funded a group in this in the war that they're talking about. As this was in 2016, and so I'm pretty sure it was in 2014 when this really started unfolding. 2014, 2015, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it was the Free Syrian Army was the United States funded rebel group in this conflict. That wasn't the actual military of Syria. Now, granted, Bashar al-Assad is a dictator and has definitely done some fucked up stuff, so I'm not here to defend him, but just to point out the facts of the involvement of the U.S., as that's really, I feel like, how I frame things, generally speaking, as somebody who is a U.S. citizen, even though I live on a space station. FSA was a Turkish proxy. Huh. I wasn't aware of that part of it. Oh, we have 20. We do have 20, you're right. I see that now. Okay. Okay, let me get Sisko in here. Where's Sisko? Sisko. Blam. Okay, now we got multiple emotional support individuals here. I was just looking it up. It looks like the Turkish involvement as it like relates to the Free Syrian Army did not begin until sometime in 2016. And I was actually wrong about I was kind of wrong about the very beginning of this conflict. Must have been when I became aware of it, but it actually started more in 2012, it would appear. Of this one. Oh shit, I got something stuck in my throat. But yeah, if you didn't quite pick up on what he's saying, they were spamming fake SSL like links essentially for sites people would normally use, but instead were a way for the Syrian government to start copying people's data without them even knowing. It is a clunky explanation. You're right. Hey, no problem. No, yeah. Wasn't too hard. Just a quick Googling of it. Alright, we're gonna move on. This is actually a rare occasion, but I could only find videos from like small creators on this topic somehow. I don't know why. So we're gonna watch this Novara Media video from a day ago entitled "Israeli Spokesperson Eylon Levy Was Suspended."
Eilon Levy has been a key cog in Israel's propaganda machine. Since the 7th of October, the Oxford and Cambridge-educated Londoner has frequently appeared on our screens defending Israel's assault on Gaza and calling pro-Palestinian protesters, quote, rape apologists. But it's now been reported that his time as an official Israeli government spokesperson may be coming to an end. Levy has been suspended from duties after angering the UK government. That's reported by the Times of Israel. So, what did Levy do to put himself on the wrong side of the UK government? Well, on the 6th of March, Foreign Secretary David Cameron said this: meeting with Benny Gantz today, I made clear the steps Israel must take to increase aid into Gaza and the UK's deep concern about the prospect of a military offensive in Rafah. These are tough but necessary conversations. Levy took offence at that tweet and posted a long reply, which included this statement. It is factually incorrect that the flow of aid has not increased. Last week, we had a record 277 trucks. Over the past 2 weeks, there have been nearly 50% more food trucks entering compared with before the war. Israel's crossings have excess capacity, and if the UK wants more aid to enter Gaza, it should send it, and we'll make sure it gets in. And in a tweet that has now been deleted, Levy also said this: I hope you are also aware there are no limits on the entry of food, water, medicine, or shelter equipment into Gaza. And in fact, the crossings have excess capacity. Test us. Send another 100 trucks.
It's just super annoying. But it's kind of great to see in retrospect after him getting canned here, all the terrible things he had to say.
To Kerem Shalom, and we'll get them in. Now, those tweets triggered a complaint by officials in the Foreign Office who wrote to Israel's Foreign Ministry to express their, quote, surprise at Levy's posts and asking whether the remarks reflect the Israeli government's official position. In other words, was the Israeli government really trying to tell us they'd let in 100 trucks a day when there were thousands already queuing outside? Now, the answer was obviously no. But Levy's reply to Cameron isn't the only time he got himself in trouble over telling half-truths to Tory MPs. Responding to a tweet about delays to aid getting into Gaza by chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Alicia Kearns, Levy said this: hello, Alicia. Israeli government spokesperson here. Are you aware the Kerem Shalom crossing is currently closed on Saturdays at the request of the UN because there is so much undistributed aid piling up on the other side? The problem isn't aid getting in, it's getting it around. But what Levy didn't seem to know is that Kearns had recently visited the border with Egypt. Now, she replied with this: thanks for your comments. Please provide evidence of the request by the UN to close on Saturdays. This is not what the UN told us yesterday, nor is it recognized by aid agencies and governments I've spoken to. Now, in response, Levy posted this: thank you for engaging. This is the...
Oh my God, this is... This guy is just straight up Twilight Zone, I swear to God. Eilon Levy. A man who just wants to tell you things that are definitely true and not made up at all.
Israeli unit responsible for facilitating the transfer of humanitarian aid into Gaza. They will be happy to help you with any questions you have. Right? This is the Israeli unit. He was saying the UN. Kearns wasn't having it. Very happy for Kogat, so that's the Israeli unit, to answer as well. But you made this statement, UN request for no deliveries on Saturday, so I'd be grateful if you can evidence your claims. And then she said, provide the evidence behind your statement or retract and correct it. So she's not accepting this statement from the Israelis. She wanted Levy to justify it with evidence, not just sort of passing on that request. It isn't the only British politician as well that Levy has irritated. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to be turning on his mouthpiece too. So not just British politicians, also Israeli politicians who are getting annoyed with him. Now, a source in Netanyahu's office told Israeli newspaper Ynet that Levy was, quote, busy from morning to night promoting himself and running an independent agenda. Before the suspension, Levy's media appearances had also been reduced, reportedly at the insistence of Netanyahu's wife, Sarah. That was after she learned that Levy had taken part in anti-government protests over planned judicial reforms. So that's telling there. So on the judicial reform side, he is more liberal than Netanyahu, but when it comes to the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, very much on board with the Likud agenda. Of course, I don't imagine you to be feeling too sorry for...
Okay. Anyways, I just thought it'd be important to cover the fact that Eylon Levy is no longer the spokesperson for Israel, as we've been listening to his lies nonstop for like 5 fucking months. If you want to watch that whole thing, obviously, go to Navarra Media. Do a lot of great work over there. Let's see. What do I have left? Okay, yeah. This is from 11 hours ago. Democracy Now! Humanitarian violence in Gaza. Architect Eyal Weitzman on mapping Israel's genocidal campaign. Next, please. There we go.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermin Sheikh.
We look now at a new report published by the research group Forensic Architecture, which counters Israel's argument at the International Court of Justice that it followed humanitarian policies to safeguard civilian life in Gaza. South Africa argued in January before the ICJ that Israel was guilty of genocide during its war on Gaza. The report argues that what Israel says are humanitarian evacuations in Gaza actually amount to the forced displacement of Palestinians, which is a war crime.
For more, we're joined in London by Eyal Weitzman, a British-Israeli architect born in Haifa. He's founder and director of Forensic Architecture, professor of spatial and visual cultures at Goldsmiths College at the University of London. He's the author of several books, including Hololand, Israel's Architecture of Occupation and The Least of All Possible Evils, a short history of humanitarian violence. He's also a member of the Technology Advisory Board of the International Criminal Court and of the Center for Investigative Journalism. Eyal, welcome to Democracy Now! As we come to air right now, the United States has presented a resolution to the UN Security Council for a temporary ceasefire. I'm wondering if you could respond to that. And Netanyahu only speaking with Republicans behind closed doors. Now he might be addressing a joint session of Congress if the House Speaker decides to invite him, saying that Rafah invasion will happen.
Yeah, if a Rafah invasion will happen, we will see the humanitarian disaster, the man-made humanitarian disaster imposed on Gaza, just aggravated to levels that we haven't yet experienced. In Rafah, we have a huge part of the Palestinian people evacuated to living in inhumane conditions where there are famine and lack of basic humanitarian provisions.
Oh no, my dogs are Garth is back. I didn't start it this time. I did not start it this time.
Thing that is called a safe zone. And I think that it's important to understand that there is no safe place in Gaza, although Israel is designating part of the Strip as so-called safe areas and ordering the population to evacuate to them. It continuously imposes on these areas conditions that amount to unlivable conditions and in continuation of its genocidal policies. So what we need to, my comment to that is rather than allowing any or entertaining any specific plans and provisions, that the U.S. is discussing now with the Israelis about allowing them to attack Rafah under certain conditions, we need to see immediate ceasefire across the board.
What conditions would be acceptable? That's what comes to my mind. You think about it, it's like it's just filled with civilians. What conditions would be acceptable? It's confusing to me. Are you gonna start shooting in a civilian area? Are you gonna start bombing it? Where's the line there?
places of Gaza in order to allow for the rebuilding of the Strip, in order to allow for humanitarian provision to reach each and every Palestinian in the north and in the south.
Well, Eyal Weitzman, the proposal that the U.S. has put forth, this is before we turn to your report, the proposal that the U.S. has put forth for a temporary ceasefire is reportedly for the release of Israeli hostages and allowing more humanitarian aid into Gaza. You wrote in a piece, I want to ask you about a piece you wrote for the London Review of Books in November, in which you document the piece's headlined exchange rate, where you document the change in Israel policy with respect to its hostages. So if you could talk about the way that that's played out, you wrote the piece in November, if you could talk about the way that's played out and how you think that might affect what happens now going forward with respect to the 100 or so hostages who remained, who are reportedly still alive.
I think that what you see in all negotiations around the captives and the Palestinian prisoners sitting in Israeli prisons, some of them on administrative detentions without charge, thousands of them, is that Israel has been creating and enlarging its bank of prisoners in order to create, in order to allow it to change the exchange rate. The title of that piece in the LRB was Exchange Rate, and it was looking at the history of Palestinian resistance to Israeli occupation through the capture of captives, from the famous airplane hijacks at the 70s all the way to the present. The way in which Palestinians forced Israel into the only way that Palestinians could actually affect and release their prisoners is through capturing Israeli captives. Over the years, the exchange rate has changed favorably to the Palestinians. And what you're seeing is that Israel is now arresting people in order, Palestinians, again, and holding them in administrative detention in order.
Yeah, that's been my sense, and I'm, I'm here in the space station, so it's hard to be 100% on it, but it just seems like they're just arresting literally anybody for just being Palestinian at this point in Gaza that they can find in West Bank, and, just using them as collateral in this situation.
Beef up its bank of captives. More than that, you could see that in the...
Wait, you hate the popcorn emoji? Why do you hate the popcorn emoji?
Reports on the negotiation, the fate of those people that have been purportedly evacuated into safe areas is being brought into the equation. One way of thinking about it is to say, of course, Hamas or Palestinian fractions in Gaza are holding over 100 Israeli captives, and Israel is holding close to 2 million Palestinian captives and bargaining for their return home in exchange for its prisoners. And that is obviously patently illegal according to international law. And the fact that even that is being brought into the negotiation testify that that was the intent of holding them away from their home as a bargaining chip towards that. So you have an exchange rate now that is
talking about, grosses me out just thinking about the exchange rate for humans. These people should be released. Everybody should be released, all hostages. Very frustrating. Not gonna watch that whole thing. But I might skip ahead to a different portion of this real quick. Yeah. Alright, let's start right around here, I think is a good spot.
Kind of the principle of using a humanitarian principle that is purportedly used in order to save in order to treat civilians and take them out of harm's way in order to achieve Israel's operational objectives in this attack on Gaza, and that is.
You know what? I just realized that this is a website. Okay, I'm not going to try and figure out how to use this. The way that they have this website set up is not super easy. Let's just listen to this.
Exercise pain on the civilian population to generate levels of destruction and harm that would deter Palestinians from ongoing resistance to the Israeli occupation. And it's becoming more and more clear that the harm, that the levels of destruction that we're seeing, that the level of displacement that we're seeing are not the byproduct, are not the collateral effects of this conflict, but really the only thing that Israel has achieved during that war. It hasn't achieved any of its tactical aims. It hasn't dismantled Hamas as an operative force. It hasn't captured the Hamas leadership. It hasn't freed hostages, except in very rare situations. What it has done is create an equation in which the civilian population is being put in harm's way in order to bargain against their return back to the north, to north of Gaza, in order to effectively achieve what tactically Israel has not achieved. So in relation to the stages, a week or so after the October 7th attack, Israel has given the entirety of the north of Gaza an evacuation order. They were ordered to leave the north of Gaza, home to over 1 million Palestinians, the center of Palestinian political, cultural life, was actually ordered to cross Wadi Gaza, which divide, according to them, Gaza into north and south. That was the first stage. And after the ceasefire, the temporary ceasefire in which some prisoner exchange was happening at the beginning of December, what Israel has done is releasing an interactive map online, dividing Gaza into a kind of a gerrymandered 623 zones. It was very difficult with people that we spoke to in Gaza to understand whether they are in zone number 546 or 547. The map was extremely confusing. It was released online at a time of very frequent internet and power cuts, or it was communicated via leaflets that were unevenly distributed. It was an incredibly confusing system that led to the ongoing displacement of Palestinians from one zone to the other. So after they were ordered to all move into southern Gaza from different parts in the southern part of Gaza, they were ordered to go into different places. And what the report is showing is the systematic and ongoing use of these evacuation orders were meant to achieve that population displacement, and that people were continuously being put in harm's way. The routes, the so-called safe routes along which Palestinians were ordered to evacuate.
Oh, it just makes me sick. Like, the systemic nature of this whole thing is mind-boggling. The fact that they have blocked out every single part of Gaza in this way and systematized the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from their own land, and that it's taken this long for anybody in the West to really start speaking up about it, aside from a few exceptions. It's a little crazy. What's wrong with the command? Why are you trying to edit the command? I'm not seeing it. Is it different? I don't know what happened. You think just because Benjamin Netanyahu, Mr. Yuhu, wanted this all along? Entirely possible. I think it's edit com. I'm not sure. I see what you're trying to do though. Okay. Now going to 7 hours ago. This is from Reuters. UN condemns unprecedented Gaza deaths at EU meeting.
We also condemn the fact that we are witnessing a number of civilian casualties in Gaza that is unprecedented in my times as Secretary General. And a basic principle of international humanitarian law is the protection of civilians.
What's happening today in Gaza is the failure of humanity. It's not a humanitarian crisis. It's the failure of humanity. It's not a earthquake. It's not a flood. It's bombing. The only way of stopping this humanitarian crisis, human crisis, is Israel respecting more civilians and allowing more support to enter into Gaza. Certainly, Israel has the right to defend, not to revenge. Not to revenge, defend. Certainly, we support the right of Israel to defend. But we say at the same time that it has to be done in accordance with international law and humanitarian law, right?
It met all the regional partners, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, UAE, the Palestinian Authority, and Egypt.
Pause. All right, I fixed it. I fixed it for you. I did it. NBD. This is from not that long ago. Earlier this evening. When was this? 4 hours ago? Yeah, this is from Al Jazeera, entitled Blinken Meets with Arab Officials. Calls for enduring aid. Or, excuse me, enduring end. Man, I need freaking glasses. Enduring end to Gaza crisis. It's just far enough away from me that I cannot read that properly. Okay, Blinken.
It met all the regional partners, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, UAE, the Palestinian Authority, and Egypt, of course, saying there was a clear consensus, a need for an immediate sustained ceasefire with the release of hostages. Also spoke of UN Security Council resolution, which has been tabled by the United States, which has marked change in direction, also the need to increase aid to Gaza. He spoke of impending Israeli incursion to Rafah. He spoke of the two-state solution and much more besides. Samir Shukri, for his part, said there's no time to exacerbate suffering, no room to continue war. I could go on, but I won't, because we're joined now by our diplomatic editor, James Bays, who knows much more about these things than I do. Now, so what was your overall assessment? It seemed to me that Secretary Blinken, although accepting there's very real challenges ahead, it was pretty bullish.
Yeah, it was pretty bullish, and I thought the tone of the whole thing was really rather conciliatory, and there was not a great deal of criticism. That, you know, this is the 6th visit of Secretary Blinken to the region since October the 7th, and he had some very tough discussions with these Arab leaders early on after October the 7th. Even in the statement that comes from all of the different foreign ministers that met him today, no condemnation of the US. They talk in the statement of the disastrous repercussions of the Israeli war on the Gaza Strip. And in the news conference, yes, there was the Egyptian foreign minister raised the issue of double standards, but only in response to a question. It's not something he brought up. On the other hand, of course, in terms of Israel, there was so many criticisms from the Secretary of State towards Israel, which suggests to me that his meetings tomorrow, it's going to be a reversal of what it was nearer October. The meetings tomorrow that he's going to have in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are going to be much, much more difficult, because he was so critical of the Rafah offensive. He says there is a better way. He said it would be a mistake. It's something we cannot support. With regard to aid, he said that there needs to be a surge. It cannot continue as it is now. Israel needs to do more. And, of course, when he talks about his grand plan for the way forward, he talks about a revitalised Palestinian Authority. Yes, there are things that the Arab nations and the PA need to do there. Is America and the US going to be happy just with a new prime minister, or does there have to be more fundamental change? We have a Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, still at the top, who was elected in 2005 for a 4-year term. He's now in his 20th year of that 4-year term. Right. But it is the PA that the US want to run Gaza going forward, a revitalised PA, and then it's a two-state solution. Now, guess what? The Israeli policy, or the Israeli views of the current government, is they don't believe the PA should be running Gaza, and they don't believe in a two...
Can we watch the Nickelodeon video? What? Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I heard about this. I haven't watched that yet. Is it good?
Solution.
I mean, like, do you really think we should watch it? I mean, I get the feeling it's not quote-unquote good, but more disturbing. However, I might be open to that. Might be open to that. If we are going to do that, I'm going to need a break momentarily.
In fact, although he's not an absolute key player in the war cabinet, basically, are running this war at the moment, and he's not in it. Israel Katz, who's the foreign minister of Israel, who, if they do another news conference like this tomorrow, he's going to be standing there next to Secretary Blinken. He does not believe in a Palestinian state, and he wants to annex all of the West Bank, and he's going to be standing next to Secretary Blinken. So there'll be much more disagreement, I think, in 24 hours' time than there is now.
Can you just give us a bit of context in terms of Egypt's role in all this, and why these talks are taking place in Egypt now, why this press conference has been held here? What is the importance of Egypt in the whole scene?
Well, several factors here. Number one, geography. Egypt has the border with Rafah, and it's the only place that has access to Gaza other than Israel, so that makes it absolutely key. Clearly, Egypt has a regional role in the Arab region that makes it one of the dominant players. It was the country that did the first peace deal with Israel. So Egypt, I think, always has felt that it should be the lead partner in this, and it is very much Egypt and Qatar are the two countries that are the mediators in what's going on, and we have.
Yeah, and that part is, you know, not the most problematic, but it's also not great. I wish there was a better plan. But, well, you're totally right about that. It is very similar to Bully being an asshole, torturing people for years and then crying when they get punched back, finally. Am I gonna watch the rest of this? I'm trying to remember. Ah, fuck it, let's watch it a little bit more.
we have the venue of Israel with regard to this Rafah operation, but the other two places that are important right now are here in Doha, and the talks here, Egypt and Qatar have been brokering them. We understand that the Mossad chief, David Barnier, he was here in Doha earlier in the week. He left. He's coming back, suggesting these talks, as Secretary Blinken says, the gaps are narrowing. It's still difficult.
Progress,
but I continue to believe it's possible progress. Also, the talk there raised, which he wouldn't confirm, that the CIA Director Bill Burns might be on his way here too. So I think, you know, that is a key centre. And the other centre, of course, which the Secretary of State spoke about, is New York, and the possibility that this draft resolution that the US have now put in blue, that means put ready for a vote, could be voted on. And there's some talk in New York that maybe things could happen in the next 24 hours as well. So it could be a very exciting few hours coming up.
Things are really beginning to happen, aren't they now? So we'll see how it all pans out. James, for the time being, thanks very much indeed, James Bates here.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay, if you want me to keep going, I do have a couple of things I'd be cool to watch. I'm gonna have to try to find one of these videos. As it's not on my list. But I'm gonna need to take a quick break here. And I don't know, so like if actually I could probably find it in this break while I'm doing a couple of things. But if one of the mods or somebody has like a link for me, might help out. Well, if you're OG to the stream, you may know the deal. But if you aren't, check it out. This is Galactic Pool, where I'm hanging out poolside with you folks. If you have the desire to be on this set or to affect it in some way, you could join the Patreon at this link. It's the best way to support me, Galactic Streamlord, as I am not yet monetized on YouTube. Plus, there's plenty more, what's the word? Benefits, if you will, to becoming a Galactic patron. Alright, I'll be back. So, Soul Life, the only link I could find was like real short, and I assume that's not it. I do see like a Hassan video. I guess we could watch that, but I've been trying to avoid doing the react. The reactception, if you will. But I am trying to search that link down right now. Oh, he covers multiple videos in that. Okay. By the way, these are some of the other places that I have around here. There's this one, as well as a slightly zoomed in version of that with a monitor at the top that shows what's going on my other screen here. Then we got the lake going here now, which I'm feeling pretty hard. It's very relaxing feeling. Well, trying to figure out what the heck we should watch on this. I also see that Pitchforks is objecting to watching this, as he seems to think we're going to get copyright struck for watching it. It kind of makes me want to watch the Hassan react more, because it's like, if Hassan's video is already up there and he's not going to copyright strike me, then that content, you know what I'm saying here? I feel like that's maybe my best option. Moa Noab hates Hassan. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If Hassan did it, then... Although, I feel like Hassan gets special privileges for being Hassan. But it's a good point. It's a good point. What is... Actually, before we move on to that, let's watch a couple more things that I've got here. This first one is footage of Palestinians who are attempting to withdraw money from the bank. Much of daily life in Gaza has been thrown into chaos. This includes banks closing, making it difficult for people to withdraw cash.
أول مرة أجيت من البنك هذا قعدت تقريبا 5 أيام أطلع بدري في الليل عشان أجي أسحب فلوس من هان، فالأمور صعبة جدا. يعني قعدت 5 أيام عبل ما قدرت أصل للصراف. في الأيام العادية يعني كنا في الأيام العادية يعني كان البنك سهل إلنا، بس اليوم هو صعب جدا. يعني بقعد 4-5 أيام لما بقدر أنا أسحب الراتب تبعي.
4 hours this year, 4 days. Hold on. 4 or 5 days to withdraw my salary? That's insane. Like a full week to get money? Wow. Ah, boy. They have, like, no options to do anything right now. Many are having to withdraw their money by transferring it to exchange offices, which are charging high daily fees. Not all those who queued for hours were able to get their money out. You can't hear me? Oh, yeah, it was super loud in my ears, too. I don't know why I didn't pick up on that while I was talking. Jesus Christ. That's the problem with having all of these videos that have all different volumes all the time. Before we go to that, even though that is fucked, this next video is from DW News. This is from 2 days ago, and it's entitled, "Many parts of the world will soon be uninhabitable if we don't act on climate crisis faster."
Records in global temperatures, greenhouse gas emissions and ocean heat were broken last year. This is according to a new report from the UN's World Meteorological Organization. They say this led to 90% of the world's oceans experiencing heat waves last year. Among other things, these aquatic heat waves led to coral bleaching, which devastates marine ecosystems and causes economic losses in coastal communities. Well, volunteers in the Indian coastal region of Goa are now trying a different way to give heat-stressed coral a new lease of life.
A short dip into the ocean, but not for fun. These marine biologists and volunteers have a mission to carefully move fragments of Goa's intact coral reefs and replant them before they are lost.
50 or 60% of the corals worldwide have gone, and they're not coming back.
Many more are under threat. Rising global temperatures are increasing ocean heat waves. One impact is coral bleaching, which turns coral white and puts them at risk of dying off completely. Home to around a quarter of all marine species, coral reefs are crucial for sea life. Banker-turned-conservationist Venkatesh Shalu and his team moved the coral to more habitable waters, a laborious and costly job. To finance this, they decided to get tourists and locals on board.
We just said, let's start the Adopt a Coral program. And it's a 1-year adoption period where we give them a certificate of adoption, we give them the photograph of the coral fragment, we give them the sizes with a promise that we will give them a fresh photograph at the end of 1 year with the increased sizes.
Avantika Mishra is one of the project's supporters. A regular surfer and diver, she often spends her time in the waters here.
In 5-6 years of diving myself, I've seen the decline of the color of the coral, for example, and that hurts. It's nice to be able to do something, even if it's just a little bit.
Venkatesh and his team have replanted more than 500 corals to date. It's painstaking work, considering the size of the ocean and how many corals have been destroyed. Avantika is realistic about the challenge, but she believes the adoption project will do more than just raise money.
Because I think it's really cool.
Wow, butthole bleaching is better than coral bleaching. That's mature. That's mature soul life, but true.
It's a really cool way to create impact, because when you make people feel like they own something and when they lose it, it hurts that much more.
A hurt few can afford. Corals support around 1 billion people through food and income for tourism and fisheries, essential for life in the sea and beyond.
Henna Hondel is a delegate to the UN Climate Change Conference and a climate and policy researcher at Stanford University in the United States. Welcome to DW. Paint us a picture, if you would, of what the world would look like in 20 or 30 years if we continue down our current path.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think based on current projections, what we're really preparing for is destruction to habitats, loss of flora and fauna, and unlivable conditions in many parts of the world. You know, we've seen heat waves increase in intensity, duration, and frequency. We're seeing tropical cyclones increase in intensity and a greater proportion of them being category 4 and 5. We're seeing youth talk about the mental health impacts of climate change. A really interesting study was done just a couple years ago, surveying 10,000 youth in 10 countries, and nearly half said that their feelings about climate change.
Yeah, and this is the thing about that poll we were talking about earlier. Like, young people are aware of climate change, and you know, it's like they're the ones it affects the most because they're supposed to have the most time left on the earth.
Affect their daily lives. So this is not a pretty picture. And the WMO just came out with a report recently showing that pre-pandemic levels of food insecurity have dramatically increased in the past year, up to more than 300 million people experiencing food insecurity due to climate change. So this is a really grim picture, and I think it's high time that we get governments involved to actually get a grip on it.
Right, that grim picture is a familiar one. Why do you think that, given that we all know what's going on, why isn't climate change being combated faster?
You know, I think the messaging is really key here. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, is when he said that the storyteller is the most powerful person because they set the vision, the agenda, and the values of the future. And when we think about climate change, how are we?
What is going on with her eyes? I mean, first off, they're huge, but I feel like there's something weird happening. Like, she's using AI or something. There's something
actually
really
telling
strange.
that story? Are we
They're like, there's like an aura around them. It's throwing me off. It's throwing me off.
painted in a sort of
I'm also not a big fan of using Steve Jobs quotes, but whatever.
disconnected sense, or are we actually highlighting the real economic and health impacts that are affecting people in the here and now? You know, it's been projected that coastal flooding will lead to $1 trillion euros worth of losses, just affecting Europe. So that's huge. But are we actually conveying those realities in a way that people feel connected to it in their day-to-day lives? So I think we have a lot of work to be done on that messaging front.
So I think you posed the statement as a question. Are you saying that we are not doing sufficient to put that message across? Because it seems to me you can barely turn on a TV these days without seeing someone getting flooded or someone having a drought or this river having dried up, whether it's in Europe or Bangladesh or anywhere.
It's makeup, you think? Okay. Thing is I'm like looking at it like on a really big screen and it's throwing me off. It's also not the best monitor, though. I should stop looking at this monitor.
Yeah, so I think unfortunately in the past year, those effects have come to people's doorsteps, and we're actually seeing more and more people being directly impacted by climate change.
Your butthole joke summoned FG, you think? Could be true. Could be true. Good to see you, pal.
And really feeling that in a way that I actually think could end up catalyzing more action. For example, this week, South Sudan is actually shutting down schools due to a heat wave expecting to last for the next 2 weeks. We've seen 2 years ago in the UK, roads were buckling under a really devastating heat wave in the summer of July 2023. So I think as these impacts, unfortunately, come to the doorstep of people, they're going to feel it more deeply. But what I had hoped for is that people wouldn't have to feel it so deeply for that messaging to really hit, that governments and policy experts could do a better job of articulating these challenges before the crisis actually hit.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That is the one thing that seems to be a theme among a lot of people. Not everybody, but a lot of people. They need something to happen for it to mean things. Like to them. B-Cat thinks she's beautiful. Okay, B-Cat, I see you. I would agree with that. I guess I was just focused on what was happening with her eyes. They're just so big. And then there's like and I'm looking at it on a different screen, and you can't see it, but like on this other screen, and it was just, that's all I could pay attention to. All right, we're gonna try and watch this Hassan video, I guess, which is just titled, "This is so messed up."
Didn't have a great time.
All right, Hassan.
If we can call it a secret, because I don't think it's like a secret at all. It's just something that like everyone knew and has openly talked about. I know we say open secret, but like, is it a secret? I feel like it wasn't even an open secret. I feel like it was just a thing that happened that people just knew about, but nobody really did anything. I mean, yeah, look at this. Blame It on George made a video 8 years ago, 6 years ago, with 7.7 million views. Like, this is not a secret.
A cover story, a new documentary, is shining a light on what was going on behind the scenes at Nickelodeon, home to some of the most...
I'm almost tempted to just look that up. Do you think I can get away with it? I know I'm not Hassan.
popular children's shows in the 90s and early 2000s.
For children of the 90s and early 2000s, Nickelodeon was home to some of the most popular shows of the era, from the sketch comedy hit All That to The Amanda Show. But in the new investigation Discovery docuseries Quiet on the Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, some of the former child stars behind those shows say they were subjected to inappropriate work environments. One star even claiming,
like, I'm just old enough that like, I watched most of these shows. Not all of them. Like, some of them were a little bit after my time, but
he was sexually abused.
If we don't get all these people out of here in less than 2 hours, our lives are over.
Drake Bell from the show Drake and Josh revealed.
Like, I'm slightly too old to have really watched Drake and Josh. I'm totally familiar with the show and what happened to Drake more recently, or vis-a-vis legal proceedings. But yeah.
For the first time publicly that he is the John Doe victim in the 2003 child sexual abuse case against his dialogue coach, Brian Peck. Bell claims that Peck purposely isolated him from his father, who was also his manager. Giovanni Samuels
Wait, what was that? Hold on. Wait. I'm so confused.
Work environments. One star even claiming he was sexually abused.
If we don't get all these people out of here in less than 2 hours, our lives are over.
Drake Bell from the show Drake and Josh revealing for the first time publicly that he is the John Doe victim in the 2003 child sexual abuse case against his dialogue coach, Brian Peck. Bell claims that Peck purposely isolated him from his father, who was also his manager.
What?
Giovanni Samuels and Brian Hearn starred in All That in 2001 and say
he was molested by his voice coach, his acting coach. That is, holy shit, unexpected. That actually explains some stuff, I think.
Peck worked closely with the child actors.
When you saw who the victim was, it broke my heart. I cried.
That guy that abused him went to work on at the Disney Channel after 60 months in prison? What?
We weren't close with Drake, but we were around him. He was a legend. And so to find out that he was being harmed,
brutally harmed,
in a terrible way, it infuriated me.
Hearn and Samuels also speaking about former writer and executive producer Dan Schneider, who Nickelodeon parted ways with in 2018 after complaints he created a hostile work environment. The actors recalling sketches written by Schneider's team like On Air Dairy.
Yeah.
Thing is, I think I saw a documentary about this years and years ago, so yeah, I'm familiar with it, but some of these details are completely new to me. So, sorry to those of you who are already aware of this situation.
Torture moments for all of us.
Hearn's dare had him covered in peanut butter and then licked by dogs.
My on-air dare, I was saying, I don't like this. And to see that is...
And to voice it.
And to have voiced it.
I don't like
and to be ignored.
Damn,
because-
dude. That's fucked
Oh, it's
up.
funny.
That's fucked up.
Was it funny? Come
Who
on.
was it funny for?
Right.
Wasn't for me. Your childhood is going to be a little tainted after watching it.
Yeah.
But I hope that it helps you protect the next group of kids that
Yeah.
comes up.
You know, the exploitation of kids for this kind of stuff is really, it's problematic. Hold on, I'm trying to read all your chats. Wait, Amanda Bynes accidentally set her dog on fire? Is that true? Oh, that's super sad. I mean, among other of her, I know that she's had a bunch of run-ins. It's not shocking that some of these Nick at Night people had some problems later on.
If you watch Dan Schneider's work, it is completely impossible to escape the notion of feet.
Have you ever tried to get your whole big toe in your mouth? Check this out.
There was just feet everywhere.
Tori, please pour ketchup all over your feet.
I still say this is not performing.
This is why I'm in Hollywood. Yeah.
Eat your cereal, kids.
Weird.
Hey, Dan Schneider.
Look what you've done to me.
No shade, but the industry has known this for 20 plus years. Well, not me. Also, 20 plus years ago, I was watching this shit.
2013 Nickelodeon tweet asking for feet pics. Salmon cat tomorrow, right on the bottom of your foot. Take a pic and use salmon cat Saturday, and we'll retweet
The
it.
thing is like rewatching this stuff for me is like, oh my god, what the fuck was I? What were we watching back then? What were they incepting into our brains?
And follow until our fingers get sore. Yeah, I mean, bro, this is in 2022. You know what I mean? Like they reply with this in 2022. It's like not. This is what I mean when I'm saying like it's not a secret, right? I mean, this is from BJ Investigates from May 27, 2022, 2 years ago.
Gen Z and everybody above, below, and in between. If you are alive right now, you probably are familiar with something that Dan Schneider has created. He's responsible for the careers of Amanda Bynes, Josh Peck, Jamie Lynn Spears, Miranda Cosgrove, Jeanette McCurdy, and even Ariana Grande. Many more, but that's just
Wow,
to name a few.
Ariana
There was
too?
some seriously
Crazy.
frightening and worrisome things going on at Nickelodeon Studios during that heyday with his company Schneider's Bakery. Now, Nickelodeon and Dan
See, I didn't watch iCarly. I missed that one. Like, I was aware of that show, but just I didn't wind up watching it.
have been exposed a million times over by many people on YouTube.
I have a new video for you guys because it's time to talk about this monster, Dan Schneider.
Could they have prevented this? And if so, why didn't they?
If you don't understand why
Is
the
that
giant
Illuminati?
foot plays such a big part in this, you will in a minute.
Yeah, bro, if
Jesus
Illuminati
Christ.
made a video about it, that's how you know that is like so mainstream, you know what I mean? If Illuminati made a video about it, that means someone else made a video about it. Someone else's made a video about it.
So now,
This is
according
from
to
12
a
Rules for
website
Life.
called Looper.com, for years, prolific producer Dan Schneider occupied a prominent place in the world of children's television, as we've just discussed.
Hey, good for Gabby. Interrupt away. Good to see you.
Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, Dan and his Schneider Bakery banner oversaw numerous hit shows on Nickelodeon, including All That, Kenan and Kel, Drake and Josh, and iCarly. At the height of Dan's fame,
Bro, this is one of those moments where, like, me growing up in Turkey, I didn't see any of this. Like, we didn't have that, or maybe they did have it on television, but I never saw any of this. These are the parts of the. Oh God, this photo is so creepy.
It's super creepy.
I think this should
Don't
be
be creepy.
Nickelodeon. I think. Oh, the other one is Drake and Josh. I have seen some Drake and Josh.
Like all that and Amanda, the Amanda Show, definitely watched those. And I remember people watching Drake and Josh around me, but at that time, I think I was probably like, I'm trying to think of when that came out. Hold on, I have to look this shit up. When did Drake and Josh and all these things come out? Be more helpful, Google. Oh, I was in high school and I was getting laid, so I was not watching Drake and Josh.
But I don't remember iCarly. Maybe I was too old for it. I don't know.
So basically what happened is a few of us started getting a little older, and we would revisit some of Dan Schneider's shows, like on Nick at Night or just reruns or whatever, and we started thinking like this very familiar feeling across all of us, like, what the fuck were we watching?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
iCarly was my demographic. I'm 22 years old. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, there's the other part. We have translation, dubs, and also...
just to be clear, I'm not covering it. Hassan's covering it. I'm covering Hassan covering it. Okay? Which means I'm covered.
Licensing rights that made it so that I also watched it late anyway. I probably watched Drake and Josh like after you guys watched it as well. So by that point, I was like not as interested in those shows, I think. Yeah, see? It launched on 2009, April 2007. Chat, I left the country in 2009. You know that, right? You're literally talking about shows that were in my life, like, or channels that were in my life for 2 years. By the time I was already in high school and about to leave the country. As you can see here, 2007 is when we got the Disney Channel and
Specifically the feet. It is absolutely impossible to escape the concept and image of children's feet.
Would you smell my foot and tell me what you think?
I dare you to spend one day saying yes.
Don't be creepy.
Yeah, I'll smell your foot.
Thank you.
It's just feet everywhere, feet all around.
I have a weird talent.
What's your talent?
Okay, I'll show you.
Can't believe I'm doing this.
It even went so far as to permeate.
At least
So
Tarantino
weird.
does it for art. No, Tarantino at least does it with adult.
Yeah, that too. Like, the thing is, I don't have like a feet thing either way, but doing that with kids is super creepy.
Don't be creepy.
Oh my fucking god. Wait, what are you saying? Who's 22? I don't know what you're talking about. Your feet stink? Yeah, mine too.
And not minors, dude.
Are you talking about me? About how old I am? I'm not 22. No, I'm older than that.
For adults, by adults, consenting adults. Children, on the other hand, cannot consent. Bro, why defend the feet stuff? No, I think the feet stuff is gross, but there's a difference between like gross and like, oh my god, that should be illegal. Why is that not illegal?
Yeah.
Do you not understand that? I think it's important to parse through that a little bit, considering that the major factor here is not that like things that are gross should be illegal, but instead consent and who has the capability to give consent and who does not.
Absolutely, because like parents are heavily involved in that process with minors in terms of giving consent for things like this. Ugh, but it just crosses this very weird line I just don't appreciate.
That makes it way, way different.
But then the next thing that they actually did that I think is really strange was Dan would host these recruiting parties for children.
He would have pool parties and invite
Hassan's
all
so
the kids
wise.
over and be like, oh, we'll take care of the kids. No adults need to come over. So he was having pool parties with these kids that were on the shows without any kind of adult supervision going on. One of my friends that used to work on a couple of the shows that he did, I mean, this goes back to the mid-early 90s. And
he has a pool that is the shape of a foot. Oh, the foot pool is fake? I don't get why people are into feet. That's weird. I think it's weird too. I don't understand it, but feet are a comedy staple in most kids' entertainment. Weirdly enough, there's this notion that feet are funny to kids. When Dan decided to make this his nom de plume, oh, it is a real, foot pool is a real pool. It's just not his pool. Very weird that such a...
Wait, what are you saying? Why are we talking? What? Hey, whose mom was abusive? I missed it. Very confused. Fuck, I have to pee again.
Exists. I thought that people liked feet because like the Freudian analysis is that you have like your first sexual awakening when you see like a woman put her shoe on or something and then boom, you're cooked. Isn't that the same as finding hands attractive? Dude, hands for the most part I think is something that women are into, whereas feet is mostly like men. So that's why one is like seen as like an odd thing, but not even that odd. The other is like a gross pervert fetish. Why? Because when men are into we take it to the next level, dog. We go above and we go beyond. The hand thing, like, yeah, some women are into hands. I don't really understand it, but like, I've never heard somebody get grossed out by like a hand fetish, or even someone referred to hands as a fetish. Partially because women are not as gross as men on average about their sexual desires.
Along with the kids in their dressing rooms, without any adult supervision in there either. He was just he's just a sick dude, and people have known about this in the industry for a long time. This isn't anything that's new to people within there, and it's not anything new to Nickelodeon either. I don't know why Nickelodeon continues to put up with this guy.
So in 1997.
Wait, what? Was that Michelle Obama?
Why Nickelodeon continues to put up with this guy.
Oh, he went back. Okay. Hold on.
Dad, is this real? Why is he smelling Michelle Obama? Yeah, he would do this pose as a joke. He did it with a lot of people as a trademark meme. Bro, Obama is so clout hungry, he sent his wife to get sniffed by Dan Schneider, dude. My man was destined to be a podcaster from the jump. He was like, I'm
damn, Hassan throwing shade at Obama? Wow.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Just kidding.
Matter what. He was doing Illuminati rituals. Okay, this is the one thing that I do believe. Like the whole like humiliation ritual. Now I believe it. Now I believe it. Obama, the celebrity president. He wanted to be famous so bad.
It looks like the Spears family is growing again, but this time it's not Britney Spears who's expecting. It's her 16-year-old little sister, Jamie Lynn.
Dude, why are they covering this in the most cheery fashion possible? What the f***'s going on?
Yeah, it's
That's
weird.
Insane. Dude, what was going on in America? What the f*** was going on in America? Oh my God, dude.
I don't know
why.
why.
I'm not gonna lie. This is one of those like overcorrective things that Zoomers have
Hassan
done.
has so many
totally
questions.
On board with the whole like age
America
gap
hasn't
discourse.
changed that
Perfectly
much.
valid, dude. Because the inverse of it is so invalid and so wrong. Yeah. Woke culture took this away from us. Back in my day, a 16-year-old could be impregnated by an adult, potentially.
Nickelodeon did put out a carefully worded statement saying, quote, "We respect Jamie Lynn's decision to take responsibility in this sensitive and personal situation. Our primary concern right now is for Jamie Lynn's well-being, not our show, Zoe 101.
They were looking just for anything, and then Dan Schneider's next show was iCarly. So they were looking for, you know, extras or possibly like a lead type of role. So, of course, my agent jumped on that opportunity, and we flew out to LA for this audition. And when we got there, it was probably like 200 kids, and then these random agents hand-selected specific kids that they liked, or, you know,
God.
some charisma. And then once about 40 kids were selected, we were then told to take off our shoes and that we were each going to go into a room to show the producer, who is Dan Schneider, the tape to see who he would want on the
This
show.
is super
And
creepy.
of course, he always.
This shit is super fucking creepy. That guy is like, he's got this freaking look on his face. And it's really, if it was really known for that long, it's a little bit shocking that anybody let it go on. It's just, ugh.
Like, what would you like us to be doing once we're in there? My agent told me, you got to just take off your shoes, just like run around in front of the camera, you know, talk about how much you love me.
Like, here's the thing about this that like bugs the fuck out of me is like, kids need fun, right? Like having TV shows for kids isn't a bad thing.
Even, you know, things like,
but like, the more you see stuff like this, the more you don't want to trust anybody working with kids, which is ridiculous. Like, my best friend is a teacher, right? Like, you know, like, and so I don't know. It's just, it just makes you jaded, and you start thinking, like, you start looking around, like, oh, you work at a kids show. What do you do over there? Got any weird feet things or anything like that? And it's like, you know, like it makes you sad. It makes you very sad. Wish I didn't even have to go through that kind of thinking process, but it's just reality. Fact is, I fucking loved the Amanda show. I thought it was hilarious. Amanda Bynes. Also, all that was the shit. Oh my god. I feel like I need to look up what this dude's like TV. What's his name again? Schneider? Dan Schneider? I gotta look up this dude's freaking TV shows. See what else is being tainted. That's probably gonna make me sad. The world is a messed up place. Bad Lefty, you are correct on that. Okay, some of this is garbage I never saw. Oh, Keenan and Kel 2 and all that? Of course. Of course. Just ruin it for me, huh? Just ruin it. Both good burgers, of course. Of course. Why wouldn't he? Now I feel like I have to go back and rewatch all these and be like, what the fuck was I watching during my childhood again?
Okay, that's weird, but it didn't think anything of it because I was still young. Then when I saw other kids doing it, like their parents were like, take your shoes off, like we're going in, like this is it, this is your thing. You know, it was all the kids that were wearing like the short shorts, like the, you know, spaghetti strap tank tops, you know, things that were a little more open and less reserved. And then
you worked in a preschool, my dogs? That makes sense. You seem like a nice person, you know? And that's the thing, is I attribute people who work with kids as being nice people, right? Because it's not usually working with kids in most degrees, although in TV it's a completely different situation, so you should probably try and separate those two things as much as possible. But yeah, I'd like to ascribe to people that are trying to work with and or help kids as being good people, such as yourself.
once we got into the last room before my audition happened, my mom kind of looked around and was like, this is wrong. There's just something really wrong about this. And
I've never like investigated it further. I just thought that it's like that Dan Schneider was like really into child's feet.
March 29th, 2018, Nickelodeon and Schneider's Bakery, which is Dan's company, finally part ways. So I guess like allegations had gotten like so bad or whatever, but actually Jake has gotten me an article that I have not read yet. It's by deadline.com and it's called Nickelodeon Parts Ways with TV series producer Dan Schneider. Exclusive, updated. Nickelodeon has ended its long relationship with one of its most prolific creators, Dan Schneider. Probably for the best considering the feet thing alone. Here's a quote. Following many conversations together about next directions and future opportunities, Nickelodeon and our longtime creative partner Dan Schneider, Schneider's Bakery, have agreed to not extend the current deal. Nickelodeon and Schneider said in a joint statement to Deadline.
The foot, it just means completely different things now. Like that logo. There was absolutely feet in Good Burger too? I can't remember now. I cannot remember.
The following. Since several Schneider's Bakery...
Wait, is that Nickelodeon foot thing real? They had a foot logo? Bro, that's
yes.
So nutty.
Yes, they did.
Projects are wrapping up. Both sides agreed that this is a natural time for Nick...
Dude, the foot logo was fucking iconic. They had that for like a decade.
And Schneider's Bakery to pursue other opportunities and projects. This is kind of weird to me considering like he made his whole career on Nickelodeon. Like I don't know where he thought he was about to go. For years, Schneider had been under a cloud of suspicion over the treatment of some younger stars of his shows. Among the things that have raised eyebrows are his tweeted photos of the toad.
None of this content is new. Dan Schneider is not a kid diddler. You can think of them as creepy all you want, but the rumors aren't true. Wait, what? Dan, are you an 11-month subscriber? Dan, you legally have to say it if you are.
Those of his young female stars. Y'all, one thing I will tell you right now is people will actually pay money to look at your...
Oh, that's fucking hilarious. I didn't even know you could do that with Twitch chat.
I did not know that.
I never
did not know
noticed that.
That was news to me. But I will tell you that that is the truth. So he's just putting it all out there on the internet for free, these children's toes. I mean, just weird how, like, because you're a director of a show that people play on, that you feel like you have access over that person's body to just be posting pictures of their parts. That is gross and weird. These are children. And who was protecting these children? Their parents were the ones dropping them off at the damn pool party. They had to see these tweets about these feet. If I saw somebody tweeting, soliciting pictures of children's feet, and they were working with children,
yeah,
I might ask some questions.
We have a lot of questions.
I like the chatter's mentality being like, no, you don't understand. Like, he didn't actually f the kids. Like, he just jerked off to their feet pics. So he's actually not a pedophile. Yeah, he just molested them, like, a little bit. Like, I assume that's the argument that he's trying to make, right? I'm trying to be as charitable as possible. He's like, dude, no matter how hard you try, Dan is not a pedophile. He's an
he's just a guy
also did suspiciously hire a bunch
who's
of
really into children's
technically
feet.
Not even a phebophile, a feetophile.
And there's
He would
nothing
come
weird
around
about that.
video recording like the stars on the set. It was almost like they would go rigid, like Ariana Grande, like, hey, what are you doing here?
That was amazing. That was one of the better things I've ever heard.
Hey!
Hi, what's going on here?
You cut out that part.
Why are you sitting on the floor of the set?
Because we are.
They are. Did you just bark?
No.
Is he the one who's recording this right now? I assume it is, right?
No, I did not.
Must be the set ghost.
Who barked?
The set of Ghost Christmas Past.
That was really scary. Did you hear that? Yeah.
Like, it was very obvious that the kids were uncomfortable.
Most people don't give Dan the benefit of the doubt because he's fat and ugly.
Yeah, you're right. Her body language there is all closed up. Like, she looked very uncomfortable. What is this guy saying now? This guy's just coming to Dan Schneider's defense. Maybe Dan Schneider is a Hassan 11-month subscriber. It could be.
What the f are you saying, dog? Bro, you have to be baiting, right? This has to be Dan's alt account, right?
After the ousting, after the departure of Dan Schneider from Nickelodeon, the New York Times seems to have attempted to actually rehabilitate Dan Schneider's reputation. Schneider's blog and YouTube channel from when he was Nickelodeon's star showrunner captured the way he would interact with the teenage actors and young fans of the show. He posted a video of him spooking the iCarly actress Miranda Cosgrove as she walked into a room.
Oh my gosh, that is so mean. But it wasn't that good. I didn't get that scared.
You were kind of scared.
I was a little scared. You get me. You never get me.
I just did.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh, that scared me so.
But some people who worked on Schneider's shows,
It kind of feels like he's not actually scaring people to some degree, and they're just like trying to play into his weird thing. What is up with that? Why is he doing this? I don't understand.
You get me. You never get me.
I just did.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh, that scared me so.
but
No, maybe they are very scared of that situation. You know, it's hard to. It's a very weird dynamic. I am not feeling it. Oh God.
some people who
This is
worked on
this
Schneider's
is bugging me. It's gonna get weirder than this. Okay.
shows asked for anonymity.
Wait, what the f okay, but is that actually Dan Schneider's account in 2021?
Yeah, no, rewatching it, they definitely looked scared. You're right, Beacon. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
Jamie Lynn Spears got lucky, to be honest. That whole famous lifestyle. Not true. Zoe 101. In 2021? Wait, who the f is this guy? The use of creepy music is very manipulative. Bro.
Because they feared that they would be basically retaliated against by him.
She say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Don't be creepy.
We haven't had to use it in a long time.
I said lots of nice things.
So I said nice things about you.
Oh.
Wow.
That's gonna get on TV. That's gonna get on TV.
They said they viewed his chumminess with young actors as awkward and odd for a powerful, middle-aged showrunner. I agree completely. Several recalled that he often spent time during the workday interacting with young fans on.
Dude, chatter about to be like, dude, those are just like not weird. You know what I mean? Who amongst us doesn't want iCarly's and Sam's toe pics, like tweeting about like a 14-year-old's. Bro,
Jesus
one of the
Christ,
rumors was that
Hassan.
he impregnated Jamie Spears, objectively untrue as defamation. Okay, but we're not talking about impregnating Jamie Lynn Spears. I don't know who impregnated Jamie Lynn Spears. Like, you're not addressing the not rumor in front of your face. Cancel culture at work again. Here we go again, boys. Can a fella not actually talk about a 14-year-old's feet? Like, I don't understand. Man, woke culture's coming after us.
That's a
huh,
good point.
boys?
That's a good point. We've gone too far.
Men really can't
We've
do
clearly
nothing
gone too
nowadays.
far. Yeah.
Called that he
Yeah.
often spent time during the workday interacting with young fans online.
But seriously, that I'm trying to remember, just like back here, like 30 seconds ago, the way he's like holding on to Carly here, it's like really creepy. Where is it? It's like right here.
That's gonna get on TV. I will tase her if necessary.
He's like holding her like with this like Vulcan grip. Ugh.
I'm Dan is f***ing awful. Yeah, well, now I'm going to put this guy against the guy who's defending Dan. Eat Predators is going to duke it out 1v1 style with the guy who wants to defend Dan Schneider in the chat. I'm just kidding. Jesus Christ, this shit's crazy. Alexa Nichols is she, her. Sorry. So the new documentary that came out actually features a bunch of new stuff, as far as I understand. New things such as like obviously revealing that Drake Bell was the original one of the children that got Brian Peck, the voice coach, fired and also put in prison. Here's what Alexa Nicholas said. Quiet on set apology. I don't feel any remorse for him. This is all about power and control. The former Nickelodeon actress says after the Dark series called out her old boss's behavior, as if he just one day had a fit, is how he's acting. Like, I'm sorry, it was just this one-time event that people were affected by it. I don't even feel any remorse for him. He's not even crying. I know everyone deals with their own emotions their own way, but I don't feel anything from you, Dan. I don't feel a thing. Embarrassing for you, dude. Stop it. There were two women splitting a salary. I'm gonna cut to the chase here. Nicholas continued. You don't feel anything, Dan. You're like every freaking privileged white male I've honestly ever met on set. You don't even know what accountability is. Walking Dead actress also analyzed the way interviewer Boogle, who played Tebow on iCarly, communicated with Schneider using locker room talk. Yeah, this was kind of crazy. Like, so one of the adults on the show actually interviewed Dan Schneider, which I'm going to show you in a second. Dan Schneider talks about
Hey, it's
Quiet on
Boogie.
Set.
I played Tebow on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I got a
What?
chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes. Dan, how are you?
This is on Dan's
I'm okay.
own.
I'm okay. I
Damn,
really
dude.
appreciate you reaching out and giving me the
Really?
opportunity to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really
This dude
glad you're
looks
here because I believe this is important.
super
for
weird.
sure.
And I feel like he grew this beard so that people didn't recognize him.
We've got a lot of things to unpack.
Because like it seems like every single other picture I've seen of him, he doesn't have a beard. Now he suddenly has a beard that's really bad. Suspect.
But before I dive into my list of topics that I'd like to discuss, is there anything you'd like to start off with?
Absolutely. Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret. And I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position.
What is he talking about? I wish I had context for what we're talking about here.
It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable.
He's like, there's lots of people that I gave massages to. He's such a noble guy. Dude, come on. You're memeing. You're fucking memeing. You're either memeing.
Ew. Wait, what? He was asking children for massages? That is disgusting. Why? Why? There is no explanation for that sort of a thing. That is gross. Sorry, I'm trying to like Google this. The fuck?
Or you are literally Dan Schneider. Come on, dude. There's no way, dude. Please tell me this is an elaborate top of the hour ad break debate. But like, no, it's not elaborate because he was writing about Dan Schneider and Jamie Lynn Pierce in like 2021. Friend of the show gone way too far. This is crazy. That's crazy, dude. From 2021, he's like, one day I'm going to cook his ass, dude. I'm going to. Okay, I'll shut up and let Dan speak for himself. Bro, are you Dan? Are you Dan? Bro, what is happening? This 12-month subscriber. Bro. Yo, what?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he said, bro, come on. He's an actual good dude, you have to admit.
Yeah, I feel like I have these kinds of conspiracy theories myself randomly about people. Oh man, this one seems pretty legit.
Man, give him a shot. Bro really loves iCarly, dude. He's like, come on.
Them an apology as well.
Yeah. Dan, talk to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses.
This dude's goatee makes me uncomfortable.
Writers, comedy writers have been in writers' rooms and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, also, as far as I understand, this dude was like one of the adults on his show. So obviously, one, I don't think Dan was into his feet. Seems like he was into children's feet more. And two, he's also kind of, I mean, he's not like as responsible, of course, but he's like a little bit culpable too, considering that he was on set and didn't say anything. And
okay, I think we get the picture. For fuck's sake. Well, childhood ruined. When was this interview from? Oh my god, this guy's like 58 years old. Ew. This is disgusting. I just forgot what I was trying to look at. What was I looking for? Yeah, no, he's just walking free, just doing whatever. It appears that he hasn't been... Actually, no. He's been working all the way through all of this. He was a co-creator on something called Danger Force from between 2020 and 2024. I think a reboot of iCarly between 2021 and 2023. This guy's just working. He's just out there. Ah, that is disturbing. I'm not sure I'm glad that I watched that video. I mean, I'm glad I know about it now, but fuck. That ruins a bunch of shows for me, and now I'm also, like, kind of just outraged that this guy is somehow walking the street, working in children's television and movies, and he's clearly got some kind of a fucking problem. I just don't understand how this guy is still working. He's working on something right now. Today, basically. Do you know what I'm saying? 2024. It's on his sheet. I'm looking at it. It's right in front of me. Okay. I feel like we deserve something fun after that. That was super gross. But I don't even know what to do. Because that was the end of it. I was gonna end it early today. No. No, so cute. I don't think you fit there. No.
Buddy, that box is a little too small for you.
Absolutely.
It's a bold strategy, Con. Let's see the face off for him.
Aww. Aww. It's a pint-sized kitty. That was hilarious. Need to see that very end of it. Just the cat sitting on the other cat that's in the box. Oh god. Okay. Are you not entertained?